Good morning. Welcome to RSBN on this Friday, July 25th, 2025. You're looking live, of course, at Air Force One. Looking forward to seeing President Trump board that plane. He'll be headed to Scotland for a 4-day international trip, returning to the States on Tuesday, July 29th. This, the last Friday of the month here in July. Looking forward to August and more coverage in conservative media, of course, for President Trump and conservative news, and monitoring all of the latest headlines that we see out there. And in some cases, we bring you those headlines, of course, right here directly from Right Side Broadcasting Network as we monitor all of the 24/7 news cycle that you guys have seen has really kicked into high gear since that cabinet meeting last Tuesday. I believe it's, 2 weeks ago now at this point. But really, there's a lot going on, and we're here for it. Thanks so much for streaming in live. Those of you that are joining right now at 9:03 on the East Coast, 6:03 on the West Coast, we might as well say 8:03 in Central Time Zone, and 7:03 in the Mountain Time Zone. For those of you waking up with us and turning this on right now, thanks so much for streaming in. Valuable people that you are, just like we are here, because we're all part of the same team of we the people on the right side of history, just really wanting to see common sense leadership, common sense winning, and strength. And we see that with this president, even though he goes through so many attacks, because at the end of the day, he's standing for freedom, standing for the Constitution of the United States. This, as we monitor various stories and want to see full truth and transparency through all of them. But really, what we're looking for today, of course, is seeing President Trump there. He will also, I would say, usually, you'd say 9 out of 10 chance of, well, I'm saying a 10 out of 10 chance that the president will speak to reporters today as he's leaving the South Lawn, or leaving the White House, headed onto the South Lawn to Marine One, then to that plane right there as he heads to Scotland. So I'm just going to go and say 10 out of 10 chance that he'll speak to reporters. Of course, he's going on an international trip. This is a moment that I'm sure he would speak to reporters. Now, if when he's in Scotland, when he lands there, maybe he'll speak to reporters there. So it's one of the other, but I'm going to stick to the 10 out of 10. Why not? We'll give it a try and see if I'm right. Anyway, it's pretty easy to guess this one, though, because, of course, this is a 4-day trip overseas, and obviously a lot going on in that news cycle. So I'm sure President Trump will speak to reporters. We'll have that either live for you or really quick on a replay. And sometimes when he speaks to reporters on the South Lawn, it's actually recorded and not always live. So we'll see which one it is today. Most of the time it's recorded, but we'll cover it as it happens. All right, so we have a number of videos to get to, a number of news topics, as we'll be with you throughout the morning here until the noon hour. And we'll cover everything that we see happening, whether it's live and breaking news, whether we find it through the White House Communications Office, through emails, or on X, or on Truth Social, or just anything we see live from these pool feeds. We're going to be live with you for the next few hours here as we are getting ready to see President Trump take off to Scotland. So let's just go in order. We'll stick to one thing at a time here. All the news topics that those of you are on the chats usually talk about, hey, what about this? What about that? I believe that most of them, if not all of them, we'll get to over the next few hours here, including we will be seeing the Secretary of Defense outside of the Pentagon, who will be meeting with 3 defense ministers from 3 countries, so Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. That's happening at about 9:30. So we'll be juggling a lot today, but moving back and forth and really bringing you the best live coverage we can here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So let's start out with the Department of State. There are 2 videos. One that was actually just posted by the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio's office there. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's go to one that was prior to that when it comes to, they're doing something called After the Brief. So every time there's a press briefing at the Department of State, they do this After the Brief post on social media, kind of like the MAGA Minute that you see with Carolyn Levitt. So let's take a look at the Department of State video from just recently.
Welcome to After the Brief. Today we had a very full briefing room. It was led by spokesperson Tommy Pigott. The briefing really focused on the situation in Gaza, and Mr. Pigott discussed the fact that over 90 million meals have been provided by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And based on this, the United States continues our solid commitment to a ceasefire, which is the only way to ensure the dire needs of the people in Gaza will be met and our lasting commitment for peace in this region. We also highlighted the fact that Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources, Michael Regas, will travel to Seoul and Manila. This visit will highlight the department's vision for a free, secure, and prosperous Indo-Pacific, as well as strengthen our operational posture and partnerships in this region. And finally, the president had a number of landmark trade agreements this week with Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. These agreements highlight this administration's focus on an America First agenda that advances the U.S. economy as well as promotes reciprocal and fair trade partnerships. That was our After the Brief. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
And sticking with the Department of State, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, his team just posted a video about international relations, basically. So let's take a look at that video posted just about maybe 20 minutes ago. A lot of time there, 6 months wrapped up into a pretty quick video, but still, seeing all of the countries that the Secretary of State have been speaking with and meeting with and traveling all over the place. Remember when the Secretary of State traveled to Panama to talk about the Panama Canal? That seems like 3 years ago. It was more like 3 months ago. A lot happening in this 24/7 news cycle as we're looking live at Air Force One, standing by for the Commander-in-Chief, the 47th President of the United States, the one that we the people, the majority of our country, voted for. So it's a mandate. It's something that when we see these 20 core promises, when we see all the details of winning and transparency and truth, that's what we believe in. And so that's what we're going to continue to monitor and watch. As we watch the Department of National Intelligence when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard sending the reports over to the FBI and DOJ in regards to 2016 and 2020 with Barack Obama and the gang. And on top of that, any developments that happen with the DOJ and the FBI when it comes to the Epstein case. So anything that we see come across our desk here, we'll bring it to you as we learn about it. And also, we get the White House communications emails here, just like any network does. Some of the networks that are on the mainstream side of things, they probably just gloss over many of them. We're not going to do that here because this is what the White House is saying is happening. We're going to report that. And also, what you can do is, what I can do, what we can do, and what you can do is look at what they're reporting and what they're saying, and then look at the facts. They're saying the border is closed. The border is closed. We don't see any more, illegal aliens crossing. We're seeing that the border wall is continuing to be built. We'll have a photo of that, I believe, a little bit later in the broadcast. But in the meantime, let's go to, speaking of the border, let's go back a couple months. If you remember, maybe we could show the video on a split screen while I'm talking about it. I'm not sure if we can do that, but still, the one illegal immigrant or the one person that was throwing rocks at passing by vehicles. Those are not just citizen vehicles. Even if they were, it's still illegal what this guy's doing. So this is what he decided to do when the LA riots took place and the ICE agents were doing their job to remove criminal illegal aliens from LA. Well, I remember that video, and guess what happened to that guy? Why don't we take this the video of his arrest.
You're under arrest for assaulting federal agents.
that video posted by Customs Border Protection, of course, that was the person that was throwing the rocks at those moving vehicles, at the ICE vehicles. That's what happened to him. So got arrested. Now he has to think about all of those things. You know, it's just like, geez, man, just realize that the ICE officers are just carrying out what they are told to do. But also what they're told to do is what the people of this country, the majority of the people, want to happen. All right, so looking live, of course, at Air Force One. As soon as we see the president, we'll go there live and watch him take off. He'll go to Scotland for 4 days. He'll be there until Tuesday, July 29th. Also, what we're looking at is the fact that President Trump may speak with reporters. I believe he definitely will today before he leaves. To the American press, of course. There's some international press involved as well at the White House. But most likely that'll be on the South Lawn before he goes to Marine One and takes off to go to JBA, Joint Base Andrews, which is right there. Or he'll speak to reporters outside of that plane. The third option will be when he takes off. Obviously, he'll speak to reporters most likely on the plane, on Air Force One. And then maybe speak to reporters when he lands in Scotland. So it's actually 4 options of hearing from President Trump. We're hoping to hear at least, hopefully it would be great to see the first or second options happen, but we'll roll with it here on the network as it's 9:14, Friday, July 25th. Thanks so much for waking up with us all across the country and turning on this live stream broadcast. Let's go now to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you've been frustrated with those long pharmacy lines, insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. All Family Pharmacy is actually changing how people get their medications. No insurance needed, no red tape. Always good when there's no red tape. Just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. So they carry the essentials like NAD+ and methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and more than 200 more medications. Perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And also, every order includes the doctor's prescription. So no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple. It's quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists. And let me repeat that line there. Because it's when you're having someone that's like-minded, you trust them, I believe, more. I mean, that's pretty simple, common sense stuff. So these are like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. So all you have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code. You'll save 10%. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN 10. Let's also go to callshe.com/RSBN as well. Great site there. You can download the app or just go to that website or use the QR code. That'll take you there. You can always bet or trade or just check out the polling of all sorts of questions that are out there when it comes to all sorts of topics. When you go to that website, you can scroll at the top and just look at all the different topics that you can check in on. And, you know, it gets really, really micro, right? It gets really down to what's the weather going to be like in New York today? Is it going to be above this degree, below this degree? I mean, people are betting and trading on all this stuff. I mean, so many smaller kind of topics, but larger kind of issues too. So you can do that if you'd like. Callshe.com/RSBN, great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, as it's 16 after 9, Friday, July 26th. Thanks for waking up with us on this Friday. It's been quite the week of news. We'll be talking about a number of the news topics and news headlines in just a bit. Before we continue that, let's go to President Trump's Truth Social account, talking about radical left Democrats. He says the radical left Democrats are doing everything in their power to distract and obfuscate from our great 6 months of service to America, results of which many are saying is the best 6 months in presidential history. They have gone absolutely crazy and are playing another Russia, Russia, Russia hoax, but this time under the guise of what we will call the Jeffrey Epstein scam. As things are revealed, and I hope will take place quickly, you will see that it is yet another Democrat con job. Hopefully the grand jury files will put an end to this hoax. Everyone should see what is there, but people who are innocent should not be hurt. Make America great again. President Trump from a post within that 24/7 news cycle. All right, as we await the president there, we'll go right to it. If we see any live feed of him speaking with reporters or, you know, boarding Marine One or boarding Air Force One, we'll have all of that for you. If for some reason there's not a live feed to all of the networks, we will be able to record it and replay it, and that's when you see the words moments ago on the top right of your screen, or previously recorded, just to keep you up to date on what's happening there in Washington, D.C. and outside the Beltway. Of course, that'll be at JBA, which is at the bottom right of your screen, there for President Trump's takeoff. Well, again, he'll be going to Scotland for 4 days. He'll return to the States on Tuesday, July 29th. In the meantime, I recently interviewed Texas Congressman Keith Self. Has a lot to say about President Trump's agenda when it comes to executive orders. There are 4 legislative items that we spoke about. I believe that interview is ready to go, so let's go to that. Okay, they're just saying hold for that one, so we'll hold for that. As soon as I get the green light, we'll go to that one here in a second. In the meantime, 9/18, Friday, July 25th. Again, looking forward to seeing the president. He's going to be going from the White House to the South Lawn to Marine One over to the plane there, and then Air Force One is the call letters or the call sign once the president boards that plane. Now, sometimes the president will take a motorcade from the White House to JBA. So we'll see which one happens today. I believe 8 out of 10 times he'll be taking Marine One over. But again, we'll see what happens. And as soon as we see any movement, we'll take you there, including if there's any press briefing or press gaggle that he usually does outside of the White House or on the way to Air Force One. The other 2 options, of course, he'll have a press briefing or a press gaggle on Air Force One, like you saw every time that he pretty much travels in that plane. Remember months ago when Robert McNeely was on the plane there and being able to ask the president questions as well. So it's great to see the president being open to speaking to reporters on a constant basis. All right, so the 4th option will be him landing when he lands in Scotland, that he would speak to reporters there. So maybe he'll speak to reporters at all stops, who knows? All right, so we'll bring that to you. Thanks again for streaming in, waking up with us on this great Friday, July 25th. All right, so let's go to the Texas Congressman Keith Self from just within that 24/7 news cycle. And joining us now on RSBN is Texas Congressman Keith Self. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Right Side.
Great to be here with you. Thank you.
Definitely. So I understand you've actually introduced a strong legislative package aimed at codifying 4 of President Trump's executive orders. Can you tell us about those?
Well, this is one of the most important things that I think Congress has before it, other than our regular duties, and that is to codify the executive orders that President Trump is signing, because he won't be president forever, and we don't know who's going to follow, and we need to make sure these get into law so that they cannot be overturned with just the stroke of a pen. So we've got 4 that we have submitted on one day. One is to return discipline to the schools. This is one that deals with DEI, that deals with race rather than meritocracy. It deals with the COVID-19, all of the mistakes that were made during COVID-19, and certainly men and women's sports. Then we've got the biological safety, because as we know, gain of function was done during Fauci, and it resulted in COVID-19. So we're going to make sure that toxins, viruses, biological weapons are truly monitored and kept in check under this law. Then we've got the public loan forgiveness EO that we're trying to codify. Listen to these figures. 7,000 were under this law previously forgiven loans. Under Biden, it went to 1 million people might have been eligible for loan forgiveness under this program. That's what we need to get back into law so that we have a program that actually meets the interest of the United States, rather than paying people in NGOs, non-governmental organizations that support terrorism and riots and destruction of the American value. And lastly, truth in history. Frankly, I will tell you that there are 3 things that I think the progressive left wants to tear down in order to change America. One is our faith, one is our history, and one is our family. They would like to rewrite history. They would like to take faith out of the public square. And they would certainly like to tear down the fundamental institution of society, which is the family. So those are the 4, and I think all these are important for America moving forward.
Exactly. And let's tackle the last one you just were referring to, because we know that that woke mind virus, that indoctrination that we've seen in so many schools across our union. So you're standing up against that and standing with we the people. Tell us again why that is important for the youth that are going to be our next, politicians and people in media and all over the place.
Well, we want the parents and the churches and the synagogues to have sway over children's minds. We don't want the schools and the school boards to punish the parents when they speak up for their children, when they defend their children's rights. We don't want the school boards approving transitions without parents' permission. We don't want it at all, but we certainly want the parents to be involved. So it's who is going to raise our children? We want parents to raise our children under the influence of the churches and the synagogues, not the government. The government should not be in the business of raising children. We need to be educating them, reading, writing, arithmetic, and STEM, not the woke subjects as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was, I've seen some of these public libraries as well out there, and they really still, a lot of them just force demonic actual books written there, like a demon Valentine book I saw one time. Your thoughts just about the public libraries? I know that we're talking about the 4 things that you're working to codify, but just in general, it's that indoctrination. They're still even trying at the libraries in some cases.
Well, it is throughout. Even in North Texas, we have parents' organizations that have to work hard to get certain books out of the school library or the public library. And this is a fight because I don't know how it's infected so many of our librarians, so many of our school boards. But the parents' organizations in North Texas are stepping up in many cases to fight to take these dangerous books that you're mentioning out of school libraries and public libraries. But again, it's a fight.
From the 30,000-foot view, when we're looking at the things that you're working to accomplish for the country and specifically for Texans, it's on the right side of history. I mean, this stuff is common sense, isn't it? Can we talk about the fact that you and the president and others are common sense leaders? And that's really what we the people want, sir.
Well, the people have voted for this, 77 million people. When you look at the polls, 79% want transparency and accountability in the Epstein. 77% want no amnesty. And it just goes on. This is what people want. People are crying for real leadership that will defend American values. And that's what some of us up here are trying to do, to stand in the way. It's the old William Buckley saying, who's going to stand athwart history and yell, stop? Our people are telling us enough is enough. Now do our jobs to make sure that American values are defended at every level.
And then, sir, would you have any words of advice or encouragement for we the people, specifically from Texas in your district, when it comes to all the things that are happening out there in this world? I mean, you're working hard to do things for we the people, but what message would you have for them moving forward for the next 3.5 years under President Trump and on?
Find people who are going to work for you, that are going to support your values, put them in public office, and then support them in every single way. The people will really determine the future of America. I can almost tell where you get your news by listening to you. Is it CNN? Is it MSNBC? Is it Fox? I can almost tell where someone gets their news. Pick a news source that's going to be truthful and realistic and, as you say, common sense. Then find people to serve you in elected office and support them in every single way.
It's so important. And finally, sir, what was it that got you involved originally in this whole thing in Washington, D.C.?
Well, originally, why I'm in office now is not why I originally ran. A group came to me and asked me to run for this office, so I did. And that's another story. But once I got here, I realized just the danger that our constitutional republic is in. The debt is one, the ever-increasing debt, $2 trillion a year. We're adding $37 trillion now. The U.S. credibility around the world. It looked like the Chinese Communist Party was on the march. And frankly, we have now reestablished, President Trump has reestablished U.S. credibility in many areas. We've got to keep that up. We've got to keep our progress in AI, in quantum computing. Those areas will really they will define America going forward. If we can keep AI lead, if we can keep the quantum computing lead, if we can supply enough electricity to go that direction, I think we'll be fine. But culturally, we've also got to defend American values. And people often don't understand the cultural fight that we're in to maintain. This is a Christian foundation country. Our Constitution is founded on Christian principles. The Declaration of Independence is a spiritual document. So we have got to maintain American culture while we're fighting all of the AI, the quantum computing, the critical minerals, credibility around the world. All those are worthwhile fights we have to have.
And bringing it full circle, I really like the point that you're making is codifying President Trump's executive orders to keep it locked in the reforms for the future. It's so important, sir.
We must have these into law. Executive orders are good, they're fine for the present. We need to look to the future and codify these into law.
Texas Congressman Keith Self, thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Thank you so much for working hard for we the people.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Congressman Keith Self from Texas speaking to us yesterday, of course, within that 24/7 news cycle. Beautiful blue skies there in Maryland right now at Joint Base Andrews as we await President Trump. He's taking a 4-day international trip to Scotland. He'll be back to the States on Tuesday, July 29th. Thanks so much for streaming in with us. We have a number of news topics to get to, some interviews and some videos to play as we continue to monitor President Trump's takeoff here. Also, we might get soon, if he stopped and spoke to reporters there on the South Lawn of the White House, of course, we'll bring that to you as we get it, or he may speak to reporters outside of Air Force One here. Another option is that he'll speak to reporters within that plane on the way to Scotland. Maybe all three will happen. The fourth option could be that he speaks to reporters in Scotland as well when he lands. So we'll monitor everything right here. Thanks again for joining us on this Friday, July 25th. I know it's been a lot of news going on. There's been a lot of news over the past couple of weeks, 14 straight days of news, even on the weekends. You know, President Trump, when he posts on Truth Social, that indirectly is news. I mean, it's a different time these days when it comes to what is news and what is something that's just, you know, some fluff. But still, at the end of the day, it's all within the same context of what's happening for our country, how are we moving forward, how are we winning, how are we, in some cases, are we losing in any way? But what we've been seeing is a lot of wins, as you guys know. So looking forward to any developments when it comes to the Department of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, sharing reports and more information with the FBI, with the DOJ in regards to 2016 and 2020 with Barack Obama and the gang. Also, any information from the DOJ when it comes to the Epstein case. So we're keeping our eyes on all the different stories that are happening. Obviously, those are two huge stories, but there's more than that too. There's a lot going on, of course, with President Trump and all of the wins over the past 6 months. As you're seeing Marine One there fly in to JBA, Joint Base Andrews. The president will be going on to the plane there. Then that will switch that signal, that call signal of that plane will then be Air Force One officially once the president boards that plane. So again, we'll be seeing him land. Once he lands, we'll go there live for its entirety to see him walk over from the helicopter to the airplane. Will he stop and speak to reporters there? We'll see. Also, we'll be seeing hopefully a replay of the South Lawn when President Trump walked from the White House to Marine One. Did he stop and speak to reporters there? As of right now, no network has that footage because it's maybe just happened and it wasn't live for any of the pool feeds. So what we'll do is as soon as we get something, especially if he spoke to reporters, we'll bring that to you. Obviously, we want to hear from the president in regards to so many news topics. And I think a little bit later in the broadcast, as we're covering all of the latest headlines, the latest news, we'll go to the Oval Office once again from earlier in the week when he met with the Philippine president, because when he spoke about all the different news topics, it's still fresh today when it comes to what he said just a few days ago. So there's Marine One landing right now. If the cameraman is accurate, which they usually do a great job out there, that may be the Marine One that the president is actually on, because usually there's 2 or 3 Marine Ones that fly over to JBA there in Maryland. So that may be the one that the commander-in-chief is on. As soon as that helicopter stops, we'll go there live, just take a live listen in, and then he'll walk over to Air Force One. He may stop and talk to reporters. He may just wave. I believe if he just waves to the reporters in this case, that means he most likely spoke to reporters outside of the White House on the South Lawn moments ago, which is a video we may get 10 times out of 10 we get that video. So we'll be able to play that back for you and hear any questions and answers with the press. In the meantime, again, another one that usually happens, especially on international trips, the president will go toward the rear of the aircraft, the Air Force One, and speak to reporters there as well. So we'll hear what the president's saying. We've seen a number of his Truth Social posts. If you're just joining us, we've been live since 9 this morning. We've covered a number of topics since then. We'll dive into it a lot, even as the president is on his way to Scotland. There's a lot to cover, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of videos that are fresh from various government agencies. Also, we'll have some live interviews. And on top of all of that, America remembering the great legend Hulk Hogan. We'll go to a video from about 6 months ago where he actually stopped in Alabama, and I was able to meet Hulk, and it was quite the interaction. He did an interview and everything. So it's heartbreaking news with what happened yesterday as America remembers the Hulkster. In the meantime, we're looking live at Marine One right now. Let's take you there live at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. President Trump on his way now, as soon as that plane starts to move, on his way to Scotland for a 4-day international trip. Then he'll return on Tuesday, July 29th, back here to the States. So, as of right now, as soon as we see any video feed of the president leaving the White House, going to the South Lawn, then going to Marine One, if he spoke to reporters there, we'll replay that for you. Also, as soon as we get any video feed from him on Air Force One when he speaks to reporters, that's something that may obviously happen later in the day. We'll be able to upload that as well. In the meantime, happening right now, as we have a number of news topics to get to as we see the president on the plane now, let's go to the Pentagon, where Pete Hegseth is also meeting the defense ministers from 3 different countries, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. So let's take you there as we still see the Air Force One on the other side of your screen.
Present! Oh! Order! Right shoulder! Off! Ceremonial at ease! Honor, go! Attention!
Okay, so 2 live images there. The Pentagon, the defense ministers from Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia will be greeting the Secretary of Defense in just a minute, as you guys have seen some of that video. Looking live now at Air Force One at JBA. So that's Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, obviously not too far from the White House. Beautiful Air Force One there on its way then to Scotland. Again, it's a 4-day international trip. The president will return on July 29th, Tuesday, July 29th, here to the United States. So we'll see and monitor that trip as well, as it's 9:42 this morning. In the meantime, as we were talking about earlier, if you've been with us live since 9 o'clock, we were saying, well, when's President Trump going to speak to reporters? We were thinking it would most likely happen on the South Lawn of the White House on the way to Marine One from moments ago. So we do have that video, and here it is.
Good morning. Morning, President. Good morning. How are you? Give me action. you about the lawsuits of the DOJ filed?
Those young people, they just said too much winning. Too much winning, sir. They know it. And it is a lot of winning. We had the best 6 months ever. We're now heading to Scotland. I'm meeting with the Prime Minister of UK. Some of you are going, I guess, and a lot of you aren't. Are you going? Huh? Well, you got to get moving. That's a good one. That's going to be a good one. So we have great numbers we just announced. I don't have to go over it because you've seen them, but we have great economic numbers. The deal with Japan is amazing. You give us $550 billion, and we have totally open access into Japan. Those numbers are great. I mean, the kids actually just said, very, very cute, actually. I walked up, they said, sir, there's too much winning. They picked up on a little routine, you know. Go ahead.
Mr. President, can I ask you about the DOJ lawsuit that you just filed yesterday against New York City and Mayor Adams? In the lawsuit, they named the CPAC officer that was officer that was shot. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's DOJ going against New York, but we're going against a lot of other places, too. We want to bring safety to our cities, but that's a pretty, that's going to be a pretty routine filing with other cities, too. As you know, we've started numerous lawsuits with other cities. We want to bring safety. We've got to get the criminals out, and we're doing it in record numbers.
Are you hoping
Todd giving up on Gaza in negotiations?
Yeah, Gaza, they pulled out of Gaza. They pulled out in terms of negotiating. It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad. And it got to be to a point where you're going to have to finish the job. They really, they asked for things. Don't forget, we got a lot of hostages out. So now we're down to the final hostages, and they know what happens after you get the final hostages. And basically, because of that, they really didn't want to make a deal. I saw that. So they pulled out, and they're going to have to fight, and they're going to have to clean it up. You're going to have to get rid of it. Well, I don't know about the meeting. I know it's taking place, and he's a fantastic man. He's a great attorney, and people should really focus on how well the country's doing, or they should focus on the fact that Barack Hussein Obama led a coup, or they should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about. Because, you know, Jeffrey Epstein should be spoken about. And they should speak about them, because they don't talk about them. They talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy.
Are you considering Are you considering
Easy.
do you do any business deals with the UK?
Yeah, I'm going to meet with the Prime Minister right now. We're going to be over there in about 6 hours. We're meeting with the Prime Minister tonight. We're going to be talking about the trade deal that we made and maybe even improve it.
Are you considering clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell? Are you considering clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell, sir?
I saw homeless people sleeping right outside the gates of the White House. Are you concerned about that?
I think it's terrible, and we'll have them removed immediately. We do remove it. We've got to get the mayor to run this city properly. This city has to be run. You know, I have the right to take it over, and I think it's terrible. Where are they? Where did you see them?
Right outside on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Near the Treasury.
Right across the Have you heard about Todd Blanche's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell?
Are you still disappointed in President
Pardon or clemency for Ghislaine
Well, I don't want to talk about that. What I do want to say is that Todd is a great attorney, but you ought to be speaking about Larry Summers. You ought to be speaking about some of his friends that are hedge fund guys. They're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
Do you maintain you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. Where did you see the people laying outside?
Right across the street from Lafayette Park, sir, towards 15.
We'll take care of it.
Are you hoping home. What are the alternative methods to bring hostages home?
Well, we got a lot of them out, and it's I've always said those last 10 or 20 are going to be the toughest, because Hamas knows what happens when they don't have any bargaining chips. And they really broke a deal. They broke a deal, and you're going to have to do what you have to do right now. It's a terrible thing. And I always do that. I said, when you get down to the last one, they're not going to be able to make a deal.
Would you consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if
it's something I haven't thought about. It's really something. It's something I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
But you wouldn't rule it out, sir?
Why has the dollar fallen so much, and are you concerned about that?
Well, you know, I'm a person that likes a strong dollar, but a weak dollar makes you a hell of a lot more money. Hate to tell you, I don't know if you study it, but I study it. And if you look at the yen,
I went to Penn and worked, so I know this.
you understand.
Absolutely.
Oh, you did go to
I
Penn.
went to work. Yes,
Well,
sir.
that means you're a smarter guy than I even thought, and I know you're smart. So when we have a strong dollar, one thing happens. It sounds good. But you don't do any tourism. You can't sell tractors. You can't sell trucks. You can't sell anything. It is good for inflation. That's about it. And we have no inflation. We've wiped out inflation. But it's an interesting question. So I will never say I like a low currency, but you remember the battles I had with the yuan, with China and with Japan, Japan being the yen. They always wanted a weak currency. They're trying to get a weak currency now. Now, it doesn't sound good, but you make a hell of a lot more money with a weaker dollar. Not a weak dollar, but a weaker dollar than you do with a strong dollar. And the first people that are going to notice it are the manufacturers of trucks and various other things. Like, look at Caterpillar, how well they're doing now. When you have a strong dollar, you can't sell anything. It's only good for inflation, and it's good psychologically. It makes you feel good. But with that being said, I love strong dollars, but you make your money with a currency. And I had so many different fights with President Xi, between Japan and China. All they want to do is have a weak currency. They're always fighting for a weak currency. And that's how they really dominated over the years. So when I see it down there, I don't lose sleep over it, let's put it that way. In fact, sometimes I go to sleep very happy. You understand? Do you agree with me?
I agree with a lot of what you said, Mr. President. Do you think it makes it any easier to impose your tariff with that lower dollar? Because
I think it makes it easier even for tariffs, yeah. And it makes the tariffs worth much more. And it's easier to pay off debt. And it's easier to get a low interest rate, too. There are a lot of good things. It's hard to explain to people. The headline, Trump wants a weak dollar. It's not a weak dollar. You take a look at the history of China over the last 20 years. All they do is fight for a weak currency. Look at Japan when they were really doing well. They had a very weak currency. So to me, I just say, thank you very much. It is what it is.
President, what's your comment on ceasefire? Have you given up on a Gaza ceasefire?
Well, the Gaza situation, and I said this was going to happen when you get down to your last 10 or 20. We got a lot of hostages out. We took them out in numbers that nobody believed, a lot of them. And I said, when you get down to 10 or 20, I don't think Hamas is going to make a deal because that means they have no protection. And basically, that's what happened. Hamas didn't want to make a deal.
Have you seen that photo?
I think what's going to happen is they're going to be hunted down.
Have you seen secondary sanctions sooner on Russia? Are you closer today to secondary sanctions?
We're looking at that whole situation. It could be that we'll have to put secondary sanctions on there.
Sooner than 50 days?
Maybe, yeah.
Do you think it will counterproductive? What would be a counterproductive?
Who are you with? Who are you with?
Scripps News.
Oh, good.
Counterproductive to France, for France to say that they would recognize the Palestinian state. Macron said that yesterday.
Look, he's a different kind of a guy. He's okay. He's a team player, pretty much. But here's the good news. What he says doesn't matter. It's not going to change it. Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy. I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
How important is a trade deal with the EU?
I would say that We have a 50-50 chance, maybe less than that, but a 50-50 chance of making a deal with the EU. And it'll be a deal where they have to buy down their tariffs, because they're right now at 30%. And they'll have to buy them down, maybe, or they could leave them the way they are. But they want to make a deal very badly. I would have said we have a 25% chance with Japan, and they kept coming back, and we made a deal, and the deal is, don't forget, Japan's putting up $550 billion. It's a lot of money. And also paying tariffs. The biggest part of the Japan deal, and maybe we get this with EU, maybe we don't, is that we have the right to go in and trade. We have the right. They've totally opened Japan to just to the U.S. That's, to me, the biggest part of the deal.
What level of tariff are you looking
Nuclear
for, sir?
disarmament. You said repeatedly you would like to see further nuclear arms reductions between the United States
I would
and
like
Russia.
to see that.
But the New START treaty is expiring in about 6 months, and it cannot be legally extended.
That's a problem. That's a problem for the world.
Create a new one.
It's a problem for the world. You know, we have restrictions, and they have restrictions, as you know, on nuclear. That's not an agreement you want expiring. We're starting to work on that, but that is a big problem for the world. When you take off nuclear restrictions, that's a big problem for the world.
What level of tariff are you looking for, President?
I think that Jerome Powell, I think we had a very good meeting. Forgetting about the building, that's out of control and all that. But I think we had a very good meeting on interest rates. And he said to me, now I don't know if he's going to say this on Thursday or whenever he speaks, but he said to me very strongly, the country is doing well. He said, congratulations, the country is doing really well. And I got that to mean that I think he's going to start recommending lower rates.
Because of that
How do you
conversation?
think that the Supreme
The
Court...
country really is doing well, too.
Mr. President, how do you think that...
Record business.
Did you speak to
Wait one second.
Netanyahu?
Thank you, Mr. President. How do you think that the Supreme Court's ruling that benefited you on presidential immunity would apply to former President Barack Obama and what you're accusing him of doing?
It probably helps him a lot. Probably helps him a lot, the immunity ruling. But it doesn't help the people around him at all. But it probably helps him a lot. He's done criminal acts, there's no question about it. But he has immunity, and it probably helps him a lot.
A trade agreement you're looking to sign too.
He owes me big. Obama owes me big.
What are the details in the UK trade agreement you're hoping to find soon with the Prime Minister?
This week we want to talk about certain aspects which is going to be good for both countries. More fine-tuning, and also we're going to do a little celebrating together because, you know, we got along very well. UK's been trying to make a deal with us for like 12 years and haven't been able to do it. We got it done. He's doing a very good job, good prime minister, good guy. We really get along very well. So we're going to meet at Turnberry and we're going to meet at Aberdeen. So two beautiful places.
Is there wiggle room in steel and aluminum if they were to budge on digital services tax?
Say it.
Is there any wiggle room on steel and aluminum in exchange for any budge on digital services?
Not a lot, because if I do it for one, I have to do it for all. So on that, steel and aluminum, not a lot.
President, did you speak to Netanyahu about aid drops?
Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
Mr. President, did you speak to Netanyahu about allowing aid drops in Gaza from Arab countries?
Yeah, I speak to him, but I can't tell you what I spoke to him about. But it was sort of disappointing, although I told you. I mean, I told you, when you get down to those last 20 hostages, you get down to that last 10 or 20, it's going to be very hard for Hamas to make a deal because they lose their shield, they lose their cover. We got a lot of them out, a lot of them. We took a lot of bodies out, too. You know, so many of the parents said, please get my son's body back. And we're able to do that. We got a lot of people out, live and people that are not alive. But it was very important to the parents to get their son back, even though they knew their son was dead.
Are you going to be able to get the Open Championship back to Turnberry?
I think they will do that, yeah. They want Turnberry is rated the #1 course in the world. I think they'll do that, yeah.
And are you going to talk to anybody
No,
about
I'm not going to. It's not about that. I'm going to see it for the first time in years. You were there the last time we went. That's pretty good, right? No, it's the best resort in the world, I think, at Turnberry, and it's one of the greatest courses in the world. We're going to see it. We're going to have, I believe, dinner at Turnberry. with the Prime Minister. Then we're going to go to the oil capital of Europe, which is Aberdeen, and we're going to have lunches there. We're going to have a good time. I think the Prime Minister and I get along very well.
And you're going to see the Scottish leader too, right? Swinney, John
I am.
Swinney.
I am.
What's that about?
Well, we have a lot of things in Scotland. I have a lot of love. My brother was born in Scotland, and he's a good man. The Scottish leader's a good man, so I look forward to meeting him. That's all set up, right?
Paris Day is exactly 1 week from today, August the 1st. What do you expect between now and next Friday as it relates to your deadline?
When you say tariff, not Paris.
Paris.
Tariff. I think you said Paris Day.
No, Paris Day.
Well, most of the deals are finished right now. They're finished because we're just going to charge a certain tariff. A lower tariff that I could get. I don't want to hurt country. But we're going to send a letter out sometime during the week. And it's basically going to say you're going to pay 10%, you're going to pay 15%, you're going to pay maybe less. I don't know. But Australia was great. They opened up beef yesterday for the first time ever. And they did it. We didn't know about it. We asked them to do it, and all of a sudden we got a word that they wanted. So obviously they're looking to do something. But Australia. So August 1st is going to come, and we will have most of our deals finished, if not all. We haven't really had a lot of luck with Canada. I think Canada could be one where they'll just pay tariffs, not really a negotiation. We're working very diligently with Europe, the EU, which covers a lot of territory, a lot of countries, and that's the big one right now. We have the confines of a deal with China. But we haven't really. We don't have a deal with Canada. We haven't been focused on it.
When you send out those letters, Mr. President, when you send out those letters, do you believe that will bring some certainty to the financial markets? Because then they will know.
No, when those letters go out, they're a page and a half. That means they have a deal. It's done. They pay that tariff, and that is a contract essentially. And they can come into the country. They're going to pay a tariff. I'm going to keep it minimal. I'm going to keep it. I'm not looking to hurt countries. I could do that too, but I'm not looking to do that. But when that letter goes out, that's a deal. And we'll be sending maybe close to 200 of those letters out. Don't forget, we have a lot of countries. So we're going to be sending out almost 200 of those letters. But once those letters go out, there we have a deal. Now, we sent one to Japan, we sent one to EU, and they came back and negotiated a deal. I think EU has got a pretty good chance of making a deal.
With all of that revenue coming in, Mr. President.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Our country was a dead country. It was a dead country 1 year ago. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And don't you feel it?
Mr. President, with all of that revenue coming in, tens of billions of dollars, do you think there is the possibility of a rebate to the American public in terms of all of that money?
We're thinking about that, actually. We have so much money coming in. We're thinking about a little rebate, but the big thing we want to do is pay down debt. But we're thinking about a rebate. That's a very good question. You just made a lot of news. We're thinking about a rebate because we have so much money coming in from tariffs that a little rebate for people of a certain income level might be very nice.
Humanitarian aid into Gaza. Do you think Israel is allowing enough humanitarian
aid? Being blocked by a lot of people. People don't know this, and we didn't certainly get any acknowledgement or thank you, but we contributed $60 million to food and supplies and everything else. We hope the money gets there because, that money gets taken, the food gets taken. We're going to do more, but we gave a lot of money. We gave a majority of the money, and the sad part is that no other country other than us gives anything.
Have you spoken to Michael Walkley about running for that North Carolina?
I have, yeah.
And will he run, do you think?
I think he will.
There are teacher shortages, so what can be done to get...
Are you from North Carolina?
My father lives there.
He'll be a good candidate.
What can be done to bring more teachers, more educators into the classroom to alleviate the teacher shortage across the country?
We're doing that, and we're doing it strongly. What we're doing is moving education back to the states. The states will run education. When they do it, you're going to have the best education in the world. We'll have 35 or 40 states where it will be as good as Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the top 5 or 6 countries.
How do you attract the top talent, the top teachers to get them into class?
We're going to get them. We already have them. When we go back to the states with education, you're going to see a big difference.
Mr. President, there's so many considerations for Ghislaine Maxwell. Is that on the table?
Interview going on. Todd Blanche is a great gentleman. He's a great man. Who's a great lawyer. He's got a great heart. But he's over there now. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I certainly can't talk about pardons.
Can you trust what she's telling him? She's a convicted trafficker who's eager to get out of prison.
Well, he's a professional lawyer. I think he's been through things like this before. But you should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure as hell didn't. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, should some be part of the
Now we have the hottest country in the world. All I want him to do is lower interest rates, because that'll take care of the housing. The housing is a little bit slower than everything else. Everything we're 100% on, but the housing, because this rate is too high. If he lowers it, you're going to see a housing boom on top of it. We've got the hottest country in the world.
All right, so you see Carolyn Levitt right there to the left. Obviously, President Trump spending a whole ton of time before this trip to Scotland. Unfortunately, the guy in front of the camera just didn't move until just now. We still can't hear the president from this distance, but he is definitely speaking to almost every reporter there on the south lawn of the White House. This happened moments ago. We do know that we will be getting a better view of the entire press gaggle a bit later, because they'll replay different angles later. This is the feed we're getting right now live, just as any network is getting. So pretty much everybody saw the guy standing in front of the camera. It is what it is, right? So, but still though, it's not like we could hear President Trump anyway. He's way down the line there, but he's making a lot of news today. So we're going to replay something like this a bit later in the broadcast, or at least upload it so you guys can listen in. Of course, Carolyn Levitt right there to the left, as you see. This is kind of inside baseball of what it's like. I mean, the press corps, both the American press, international press, local news, radio, podcast, live stream broadcast, traditional news, cable news, all sorts of outlets there. 90 some odd % on the left side of history, you know what I mean? Fake news. But the rest, you know, conservative media, great to see that. Still have to be professional with the colleagues there, but still, President Trump taking his time, of course, then heading to Marine One. Now, here's the thing. Let's just get you a little bit of context, a little inside baseball and what's going on. First of all, President Trump, if you've been watching this live broadcast, we already had the live feed of him taking off to Scotland on Air Force One. So we saw that earlier. What happens is then he goes on to Marine One and flies over to JBA. Then he takes off on Air Force One. Then all the networks get the replay of the South Lawn reporter press gaggle. So that's kind of what we just saw right there. Before we get to a number of sponsors here, we have a lot of news to talk about and to get to, specifically at the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth. Also, we'll be speaking about the great legend Hulk Hogan once again. What a great American patriot and legend he was. And as America mourns the loss of Hulk, the Hulkster, we do have a video from about 6 months ago. He was actually in Alabama touring one of his products, and got a chance to meet him and interviewed him right there just with my phone. We'll be playing that in just a minute. So before we get to a lot more coverage here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including an interview with the conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon, let's go to a number of our great sponsors here at Right Side, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You see the information right there on your screen. And if you've been frustrated with those long pharmacy lines and insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. All Family Pharmacy is changing how people get their medications. No insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. They carry the essentials like NAD+, methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and more than 200 more medications. It's perfect for staying prepared and supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And you also get a doctor's prescription. So no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple, quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: making America healthy again. So all you have to do is go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN10 promo code. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Let's shift over to Spring, Texas, where Angel Paste is headquartered, a great sponsor here at the network. If you use the RSBN promo code, you'll also get a discount for the flagship product, the Miracle Cream there. There's other great products on angelpaste.com. Hiring military veterans. It's great to give a shout out to all small businesses across this country, especially those that are on the conservative side of things. Those are the kind of places that I'm sure a lot of you like to shop as well. So angelpaste.com, use that RSBN promo code. One more sponsor before we continue our live coverage. Let's go to mypillow.com. The great Mike Lindell with the great company. And it's always nice to see free shipping as well. So you see that right there on your screen. More than 2,000 products for you to choose from with mypillow.com/RSBN. Some of you may be drinking some coffee this morning. I know it's only 7:10 in the morning out there on the West Coast. My coffee, very good stuff as well. All right, let's go back to Washington, D.C. What's happening moments ago outside of the Pentagon? Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, is greeting various defense ministers from 3 countries, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. We're going to watch some of those greetings happen. We also will hear from the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, for a little bit, and then we're going to shift our focus back to the American legend Hulk Hogan in just a minute. And also we have a number of interviews and more content to bring you as we are live watching all sorts of stories happen here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. The president speaking about a lot of them right there just moments ago. So if you missed that, definitely want to replay that a bit later in the broadcast. But until then, let's go now to the Pentagon in Virginia.
Present! Oh! Order! Right shoulder! On! Present on! Order! Right shoulder on! Present on!
All right, so 10:14 Eastern time, you see the various representatives from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Now, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, spoke inside the Pentagon with the defense ministers and the representatives from those three countries. We're going to go to that in just a second as we have more coverage to bring you here right now on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
All right, well, thank you all for being here on this beautiful Friday morning. To Minister Pevker, Minister Spruce, and Minister Trakulianye, thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to have you, hosting you here at the Pentagon. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your support, ongoing support for U.S. troops in so many different ways, and especially recently to Lithuania on that recovery mission of our service members this spring. The respect that you and your country, that all of your countries show to our troops is incredible, and so we thank you for that. Second, I want to congratulate all of you on your important roles in the most, we believe, the successful and historic NATO summit in modern history. President Trump called on European allies to lead on continental defense in NATO. The commitment by allies to 5% defense spending will make NATO stronger and more sustainable, more lethal on capabilities, and it starts with allies spending more on defense. And our Baltic allies have long blazed the trail here. This is not new for all of you, and you led the charge on other countries in NATO stepping up. Now, President Trump has been clear the United States remains fully committed to NATO. And together we're achieving peace through strength in Europe by setting the conditions for a negotiated lasting peace in Ukraine, establishing sustainable deterrence, and increasing allied capabilities and interoperability. We also recognize that the United States has a lot of obligations around the world, including defending our homeland and deterring war in the Indo-Pacific. So this is why European leadership in your own conventional defense on the continent is more important than ever. Your efforts to modernize and invest in new military capabilities are critical to deterring attacks and building readiness. I really, from this podium in this building, want to applaud your leadership, as I mentioned, on meeting the 5% defense spending target, not years down the road, but in all of your countries in 2026. It underscores your dedication to the alliance's security and sets a very clear example for others to follow. I also, as I mentioned off the top, truly do appreciate the ongoing support for U.S. and allied forces in the Baltics, including multinational training environments, which bolsters our collective readiness. I'm also glad that our deployed HIMARS have been able to help with your troops on training ahead of receiving your own HIMARS equipment. This cooperation accelerates our ability to defend countries with capable systems. So, ministers, your visit demonstrates our strong defense relationship, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, dear friends, dear Pete. Thank you once again for hosting us in this hot summer day here in Washington. And this is why, actually, let me start with unusual remark and start with the invitation to you to come to Estonia in the coldest time of the year in January, as we have the Allied exercise winter camp. So, and there's a possibility where we could jump in together with our troops into the ice cold water. So you're more than welcome to visit our troops and your own troops and to jump into the frozen lake.
I'll give you a solid maybe on the frozen lake.
Well, let's see that. How about that? But anyway, our meeting today is a testimony to the strong and trusted partnership between the Baltic States and the United States. We are allies who are willing to strengthen our common defense, and we are more than determined to continue this very close cooperation. We stand up for one another, and we defend each other when it's needed. This is what brotherhood in arms truly means. We experienced this serving side by side in Afghanistan, and to continue to do so in Iraq as we meet here today. Under the leadership of President Trump, the United States is doing a tremendous job strengthening NATO. At the Hague Summit you mentioned already, we made a historic decision to spend 5% of GDP on defense by 2035 in the alliance. But we all know that we need to do it more quickly, and especially I would like to thank you, Pete, for all your efforts in achieving that goal. You know that Estonia is a firm supporter of this objective that will guide European nations to take more responsibility for their own defense. And in this regard, yes, Estonia will spend even more than 5% already next year and years to come. And I want to highlight that this money is going to real military power, to core defense capabilities, all this 5 and above. And of course, we will continue to push other allies to do the same, so that Europe and Canada would bear a fair burden with the United States. So this is needed that Europe could defend itself with more lethality and highly ready forces. And this is also needed to support President Trump's plan he put together with the NATO Sec-Gen Rutte to further assist Ukraine. While the Baltic States and Europe are ready to assume greater responsibility in ensuring Europe's security, the United States' role in contributing to the deterrence on NATO's eastern flank remains crucial. US military presence in the Baltic States has a great impact. Together we keep the front door of the alliance closed and ensure peace and strength to our people, to our nations on both sides of the Atlantic. So we are really extremely grateful for this and look forward to continue the excellent military cooperation between our nations. Here, Pete, thank you very much once again for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dear Secretary, dear Pete, colleagues, distinguished media representatives, first of all, let me thank for warm welcome to Washington, D.C., to Defense Department. We highly appreciate it that all 3 Baltic countries can come together and we can discuss important issues for all of us, for alliance and of course for security of member states of the alliance. And let me thank as well your commitment, your leadership, advocating the more investment in defense and also promoting the whole idea, and it's not just about ideas, it's about practical steps to make NATO as an alliance stronger, more efficient, and as you have mentioned, more lethal. So in these challenging times, it is important that we are becoming much more efficient and lethal. And of course, under the leadership of United States, strong leadership and strong encouragement, we have had a very successful NATO summit in The Hague, where we made more lethal mindset and also the concrete steps towards the capabilities, which absolutely are crucial. United States play important role in keeping solidarity, the Article 5 of Washington Treaty, the one for all for one. And of course also the clear threat assessment is important, that Russia is a long-term threat, we should support Ukraine, but we fully realize it's not just about Europe, it's also about Indo-Pacific, it's about wider global stability, where we absolutely are allies and partners to make a global stability and security for our people. And of course, it's also about Europeans stepping up. It's about fair burden sharing, which is crucial. And concrete steps, 5%, are absolutely instrumental, once more, under the leadership of presidential administration, under the United States, leadership of the United States. We have made this very concrete, very practical, very important step. Latvia takes defense expenditure very serious. We are investing. Also next year, it will be 5% for defense and defense-related issues. We are investing in our armed forces and our capabilities, starting from air defense to also the new technologies. We are building together with 3 Baltic countries and Poland, Baltic defense line, and we see also here United States can assist and be a partner in constructing and making as efficient as necessary, because it is not just external border of the Baltic countries, it's external border of NATO. And of course, we are also investing in military defense and also in military ranges. So here we see the potential for our cooperation. So technologies, exercises absolutely are the step practical forward. And last but not least, of course, our bilateral relationship between 3 Baltic countries and the United States. They remain strategic, they remain indispensable for wider security. I think we show the role model, we are becoming a role model in the sense how to invest, how to take defense serious. And here we can, of course, do together exercises in our military ranges. We can, of course, also do it in new technologies, for instance, in drone technologies, which are coming, so we absolutely must invest. We see United States are doing a lot in this regard, and we are also doing a lot in this regard. And of course, we can do together a lot of things also in military defense industry with regard to new technologies, but not only. So that's why we remain strategic partners. We conceive the strategic partnership indispensable for us. We highly value this partnership. We are absolutely looking forward how to expand and deepen this partnership between our nations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, dear Secretary, dear Pete, thank you for hosting us in Washington. We really appreciate that. And as you know, and as we've spoken before, you know that every single one of United States troops is one of our own in Lithuania, and we do deeply care about them. We do deeply care about our friendship, and we consider them family. Lithuania has participated in 8 missions with the United States in difficult points in the world, and we are going to continue. And of course, we fully embrace your vision regarding lethality, warfighting, and readiness of our forces. We feel that this really needs to be taken care of immediately. And along with our Baltic partners, we are leading by example. So it's not about the size, it's about determination. And long before the Hague summit, Lithuania made a bold decision to raise our defense spending above 5%. It's going to be from 5 to 6% GDP on hard defense from 2025 to at least 2030. And we have over 4% already this year. We urge other European allies to do the same. We invest in troops, weapons, and infrastructure at an unprecedented speed. And we have already invested $2 billion, €2 billion actually, in United States equipment, including HIMARS, Black Hawks, Switchblades, Javelins, missiles, and JLTVs, of which we now have the largest fleet in Europe. We are strengthening our capabilities, and over 20% of our defense acquisitions are United States made. We're expanding our defense industry cooperation. We're working with Northrop and Grumman, and we are discussing supply chains and co-production with multiple United States defense industry giants, including Lockheed Martin and others. And boosting defense industry is our priority. We really invite United States companies to invest in Lithuania. We offer 0% corporate tax, bureaucracy-free green corridors, and state-of-the-art technologies. And since 2019, as you all know, Lithuania has been hosting a United States heavy infantry battalion and artillery unit on a persistent basis. And this fall, we will open new infrastructure and training facilities for United States forces with over 200 million euros invested by Lithuania. So, dear Pete, we are really looking forward to seeing you in Lithuania for the opening ceremony on the 1st of October.
Dear Pete, if I may immediately, just of course, you are also welcome to Latvia to check the icy waters, to compare the waters in 3 Baltic countries. So,
very good.
And just to finalize, so our support for Ukraine is steadfast, totaling in 1 billion euros already. And we will continue allocating at least 0.3% GDP to meet its needs. And we commend your efforts to stop the war in Ukraine, especially President Trump's decision to send United States arms to Ukraine, fully funded by NATO allies. Lithuania is ready to contribute to buying Patriots for Ukraine produced by United States. And also, as the last comment, as the only NATO defense minister sanctioned by China, I really do understand what is at stake. And United States leadership remains vital to transatlantic security, to global security. So we really stand ready to work with you, shoulder to shoulder, always.
Thank you. Thank you all for your friendship, for your strength, for your leadership, for your example, and for now your invitations as well. Truly, it is being in the NATO format, watching the way the Baltic States lead by example, and remind the entire alliance of its responsibilities on readiness, lethality, interoperability, on exercises is really important. So it's an honor to have you here at the Pentagon. Thank you, and maybe we'll take a picture. How about that? Let's see it.
The Eagles.
There.
Right here.
All right, great.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth meeting with 3 foreign ministers from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. That happened within the hour here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So did watching President Trump depart to Scotland. He'll be there for 4 days. We'll return to the States on July 29th on Tuesday. So looking forward to him returning to our soil here, but glad to see him going on this trip to Scotland. Of course, meeting with some foreign leaders, and I'm sure stopping by a few other spots there when it comes to some of the golf that is available in Scotland, thanks to President Trump as well. So it's the bottom of the hour right now. Before we turn our attention to the story that people have been talking about since yesterday, of course, the American legend and icon Hulk Hogan, his passing. I know Robert McNeely spoke about it yesterday. We played a video as well online and on the air. And he actually stopped in Alabama about 6 months ago. So we're going to dive into some of that and show you what that was like here at the network, just to honor Hulk Hogan, a fellow patriot, for those of you that are Christian, fellow Christian, and it's just, someone to remember. A lot of famous people passing away this week. It was quite interesting to see that with Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne and others. For those that are, celebrity names out there, Jamal Warner of the Cosby Show as well. So. In the meantime, let's go to a number of sponsors, and then we'll shift over to the great Hulkster. Let's go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. You can download the app. You can go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. You can go to the QR code if you'd like, all for Kalshi.com. So what will you get when you get there? You can bet, trade, and check out polls on various topics, all sorts of stuff on there: science, technology, sports, faith, politics, weather, all sorts of stuff. And people are putting money on the line. There's more than 1 million users, that number growing on Kalshi.com. Let's shift over to RSBN. If you'd like to donate to the network, all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. Also, RSB Network/donate is the place to go. And we also have an address that you can send check or cash because a number of people said they want to still send checks. So that's fine. We have a P.O. box for you. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. If you missed that address, you can always hit pause and scrub back and listen to it until you get it right. So, again, thanks, guys, so much for tuning in, streaming in on this live stream broadcast right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, Friday, July 25th. The President of the United States on his way to Scotland, and he'll return again on Tuesday. Meantime, America is mourning the loss of the great American patriot Hulk Hogan. The White House actually posted a photo of the president with the Hulkster. It's one we have seen before. If you haven't seen it, it's right there. The arm wrestling match, of course, President Trump winning against the Hulkster there. I think the Hulk, give him a little bit of respect, of course, because he's the commander-in-chief. But President Trump said on Truth Social, as I'll read from some of that quote there, he said, "We lost a great friend. The Hulkster. Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way. Strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. He gave an absolutely electric speech at the Republican National Convention. That was one of the highlights of the entire week. He entertained fans from all over the world, and the cultural impact he had was massive." The president says to his wife, Sky, and family, "We give our warmest, best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed." I believe he was also at Madison Square Garden. So the Hulkster definitely appearing and at the right time for what was and may forever be one of the biggest elections that we've ever seen. I know that happens every 4 years, but man, that was a big one. So Auburn, Alabama. This is where RSBN is based. It's our headquarters. When I found out that Hulk Hogan 6 months ago was making a stop in Auburn, and I wasn't working at the time. I had an afternoon shift, I believe, that day, so I was able to swing over, and maybe it was a Saturday. I don't recall. It was 6 months ago. However, the Hulkster stopped in Auburn, Alabama. He was selling one of his products. Let's take a look.
Can you believe Trump won? Everywhere I go, it's kind of like the attitude's lighter. People are happy. USA, USA, USA. We love Trump. We love Trump. We love Trump.
First of all, your thoughts about that big win for President Trump?
It's a great thing. I went to bed happy as ever after that great win by Trump. Super happy. Gas prices already down. So good to see. I paid $2.50 a gallon, been $2.90 a gallon. It's awesome.
Your thoughts on him being such a Trump supporter as well?
Hulk Hogan being a Trump supporter is like two of my big time fandoms coming together. Big Trump guy, big WWE guy, Hulk Hogan. Awesome.
USA.
USA. USA. USA.
USA. USA. USA. USA. USA.
Your thoughts about President Trump winning the White House, sir?
Well, I knew it was in God's hands, and thank God he won. I think the whole country, everywhere I've gone so far, I'm in Alabama now, and I was in Florida before I left. Seems like a breath of fresh air. Like this dark cloud is lifted. Everybody seems happy. Everybody has a little bit of a spring in their step, and they know now that the majority of the people in the United States didn't want the wokeism. They wanted the parents to be aware of what was going on with their kids. They wanted the border check to make sure the people that are coming in here are quality people and they're vetted, and not that the money that people makes you happy, but it makes it easier. You know, they want to have enough money to feed their kids and also be able to feed themselves. They don't want to have to argue over bills and money. And everything that's going on with Trump, quality of life, God in our homes, schools, in our country, it's right on track with this where this country not used to be, but where it should be. So there's joy. Talk about the party of joy. Well, guess what? We won.
Exactly. And then finally, just your thoughts about Right Side Broadcasting Network, conservative media out there reporting truth. We love people like you.
Well, at the end of the day, Right Side Broadcasting has taken the place of mainstream media because mainstream media has an agenda. You know, big corporate, you know, the elites, above the elites, top of the food chain are running the agenda, the storyline they want to run over and over again. They browbeat people enough where you can say the sky's red, it's red, it's red, the sky's red. It's, oh, you know what, the sky looks a little red. So it's to the point where a company like yours, Right Side Media, they've taken the place because you guys tell the truth. They've stepped in and made this mainstream media like an old dinosaur now because we know you don't get the truth from them. So with Right Side, you're always looking down the barrel, fastball of what is really going on. So that's why it's so important that you guys have stepped up and decided to tell the American public the truth.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that we're speaking to a bunch of people who, want to be heard and, deserve something that stands for them and stands for their values. And so, we're here and we're meeting people and we're constantly hearing what they're saying. We're adapting our strategy. We're constantly, we want to be a beer for the people. So far it's been great.
Fight, 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 fight.
That interview was about 6 months ago. I was debating whether I wanted to play the raw interview, and I think what we'll do is let's just do it. Why not? So the interview, less editing. The moment at the end there when he was saying fight, fight, fight. At the end of the interview, actually, I'll just show it to you. This is what transpired. Director, do we have that ready to go? All right, let's go to the raw interview of what you just saw there. As we remember, Hulk Hogan. Your thoughts about President Trump winning the White House, sir?
Well, I knew it was in God's hands, and thank God he won. I think the whole country, everywhere I've gone so far, I'm in Alabama now, and I was in Florida before I left. Seems like a breath of fresh air. Like this dark cloud is lifted. Everybody seems happy. Everybody has a little bit of a spring in their step, and they know now that the majority of the people in the United States didn't want the wokeism. They wanted the parents to be aware of what was going on with their kids. They wanted the border check to make sure the people that are coming in here are quality people and they're vetted, and not that the money that people makes you happy, but it makes it easier. They want to have enough money to feed their kids and also be able to feed themselves. They don't want to have to argue over bills and money. And everything that's going on with Trump, quality of life, God in our homes, schools, in our country, it's right on track with where this country not used to be, but where it should be. So there's joy. Talk about the party of joy. Well, guess what? We won.
Exactly. And then finally, just your thoughts about Right Side Broadcasting Network, conservative media out there reporting truth. We love people like you.
Well, at the end of the day, Right Side Broadcasting has taken the place of mainstream media because mainstream media has an agenda. Big corporate, the elites, above the elites, top of the food chain are running the agenda, the storyline they want to run over and over again. They browbeat people enough where you can say the sky's red, it's red, the sky's red. Oh, you know what, the sky looks a little red. So it's to the point where a company like yours, Right Side Media, they've taken the place because you guys tell the truth. They've stepped in and made this mainstream media like an old dinosaur now because we know you don't get the truth from them. So with Right Side, you're always looking down the barrel, fastball of what is really going on. So that's why it's so important that you guys have stepped up and decided to tell the American public the truth.
Can you lead us in a USA chant with the crowd?
I'll
say 1, 2, 3. I'll get them.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, everybody. We're going to do a USA chant, and the main man himself is going to lead us in USA.
You guys ready? 3, 2, 1. USA! 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 Fight! 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 Fight!
He's in heaven. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
I was looking at a lot of the comments on wherever you're watching right now, and a lot of people paying their respects to Hulk Hogan. Obviously, a legend, a true American patriot, and for those of you that are Christian out there, a born-again Christian. So great to see that. As it's 10:42 this morning, we're monitoring any news that happens. Of course, there are a lot of news topics that President Trump spoke about with reporters. That was the longest press gaggle that I've seen in a while, and it was great because he's going to go on this 4-day trip to Scotland. Of course, he could speak to the press on Air Force One, speak to reporters in Scotland, but it was a good way to leave the White House today for this weekend, and then he'll be back again on Tuesday, July 29th. In the meantime, at about, let's see, I think about 15 or so minutes, conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon will once again join us. He's someone that you don't want to miss, definitely a good analyst, but in the sense of bringing a lot of insight and really articulating a lot of the news topics that we're seeing out there, and he does a great job with it. So glad to have him on once again here coming up. Of course, if you are just joined us, we also interviewed the Congressman out of Texas, Keith Self, earlier in the broadcast. We started at about 9 a.m. And if you missed President Trump speaking to reporters on the South Lawn, we may replay that within this broadcast, which is going to be about another hour and 15 minutes or so, depending on if there's any breaking news or any developing news. Of course, we're monitoring any of those big stories. I mean, we know what the big stories are. One, the Department of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, sending reports over to the FBI and a DOJ in regards to Barack Obama and the whole gang from 2016 to 2020. Also, President Trump speaking about Jeffrey Epstein as well today during that press gaggle. So any information from the DOJ when it comes to that story. On top of that, we've seen so many wins by President Trump, and we're just going to basically say this. Let's just go pedal to the metal. Let's keep winning all the way through. We have 3.5 years left. Let's make sure we win these midterms. Let's make sure all of these reforms stay locked in for our country, not only during these 3.5 years, but to the future. And one of the ways that people are saying that what needs to be done in order to keep the reforms, let me just break it down simply. The border wall is getting built. There's not a lot of illegal aliens crossing that border at all, right? But if you have another president, whether it's next term or some other term, they can just reverse a lot of what's going on. So what we're trying to do is to see these common sense reforms stay locked in for our country. And so in order for that to happen, if you look at what Stephen Miller said the other day, basically putting it as accountability for those that have broken the law, all that lawfare against President Trump, against we the people, ending the weaponization of government. As long as the bad actors who have broken the law and will, with evidence and receipts on these prosecutions, not fakery. I remember Carolyn Levitt speaking just the other day at that press conference and just really doing a mic drop. You should, if you get a chance, if you missed the press conference earlier this week, please check it out. This isn't just, business as usual in conservative media. We're not just going to be playing TV because we have to get ratings and we have to make more money. That's part of the business. We understand that. But there's another aspect to all of this. It's doing our job as journalists that are on the common sense right side of history for what? To save our country. That's what we're doing this for. This is not just, again, for, oh, look at this interview that I had with this person. People, what you guys want and what I want and what we want is common sense reporting and being on the right side of history for the future of this country. It's doing our part in actually saving and rescuing this nation. That's all this is about, in my opinion. At least that's what I'm doing. And I know when you've heard from Robert McNeely, Christina Loren, and others in conservative media, Megan Kohler, and podcasts and all of this going on, it's for the right side of history. It really is. And sure, it's a job, but it's also using the gifts and talents that each of us have, whether it's in media or whether you're in a small business or you're in construction or whatever industry you're in, or if you're right now unemployed and you're looking for a job, the numbers are really dropped when it comes to unemployment. But if you're in that situation, keep praying, keep working hard, get it done. The one scripture that I was thinking of talking about, I was going to talk about it towards the end of the broadcast, but I might as well now. It kind of fits with what I'm saying is Matthew 19:26. With God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. I think one part that we're missing, I've missed it, I've learned, do I know everything? Heck no. Why would I act like that? Nobody does. Only Jesus, right? But with God, how do you get with God? You love him with everything you have. You do the great commandment. You seek him like you're just, you gotta have a hunger for it, right? And so once you're with him, with God, all things are possible. So if you're in that situation, I know you're not coming to Right Side for, a pep talk or something, but hey, what can I do? I like to be real with you, the American people. I want to resonate with all of you. And that's just what I do. That's who I am. All right, anyway, so it's 10:48, Friday, July 25th. We have a number of videos to get to, and we have that live interview in about 12 minutes from now. This is President Trump's on his way on Air Force One to Scotland. Again, he'll be there until Tuesday, July 29th. So we'll look forward to seeing Air Force One landing at Joint Base Andrews and returning to the White House there with President Trump. So, again, a lot of news today already. We saw Pete Hegseth over at the Pentagon meeting with 3 foreign ministers there, defense ministers from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And then we also saw President Trump on the South Lawn of the White House on the way to Marine One, answering a ton of questions. So I think we've already uploaded that as well. So whether you watch this live, hopefully you do, or maybe you watch that other post that we just did, whatever works for you, we're just glad to bring you this live content. And it's not free. Let's be honest with Aaron. It's not free when it comes to all of what we're doing here. So if you do want to donate, we'll talk about how to donate to the network, as we are not purchased, bought and paid for by a woke corporation who says they can only talk about this or only give this that much coverage time. I've worked in mainstream local news, and nothing against the actual people there, but the content was definitely a majority against God, against this country, against freedom, against the Constitution, definitely against MAGA, definitely against Trump. But why would they be against MAGA and Trump? Because we stand for the right side of history with all of it. And it's all common sense stuff. Don't let the mainstream, lamestream media keep lying to you, keep trying to pick away at public opinion. That's what their job is. They want public opinion to sway. Forget that. They're liars. I wish Rush Limbaugh was still with us, the godfather of all of this, the conservative media king. And then President Trump comes in. We saw him in all the debates and everything, and he's like, that's fake news. Or when he was president first time around, I love watching some of these clips. I'm talking about being a political nerd. How many of you guys have watched on, I don't know, YouTube or Rumble or whatever, and you can rewatch Jim Acosta when he worked at CNN. He was sitting in the front row. The one White House staffer was trying to get the microphone from Acosta, and Jim kept trying to ask this ridiculous question, and Trump said, be quiet, you're fake news. And he kept trying to ask the question. Acosta looked like a fool. He looked like a fool. Freedom of speech. And by the way, Jim and others have spoken so much against President Trump and so much against we the people. And what we'd rather have, to be honest, is peace, unity, the United States of America. And anybody that's against common sense, I just don't understand people that are against common sense. Common sense for what? For law and order, for our borders to be closed, to have the freedoms of our country. And if you don't like our country, you really hate it that much, you're programmed that much, indoctrinated that much, or straight up evil, if you really don't like the country, please just move somewhere else. But I hope that other country is doing the same thing we are. Go ahead, move to Hungary or move to El Salvador. move to one of those countries. You're going to have to face the same thing, because the people, the free world, wants freedom. They don't want to be lorded over by any government. They don't want any of that. And that's what is so great about the United States of America. Preaching to the choir out there. I know some of you out there are saying amen, as it's 10:51. Let's go to a number of sponsors, then we'll get back into some videos here. We'll monitor all the news of the day as it's Friday, July 25th. Happy Friday to you. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy right now. If you've been frustrated at all with these long pharmacy lines, insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. So All Family Pharmacy is actually changing how people get their medications. No insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. So they carry essentials like NAD+, new on the scene, methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and more than 200 more medications. So it really is perfect for staying prepared and supporting your health, of course, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet, or all three. Now, it's with the treatments that matter. And also, every order includes a doctor's prescription. So there's no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple, quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacies who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use RSBN 10 to save 10% off your order. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com. You see it on your screen there, /RSBN, a great sponsor here at Right Side, and also a great company, great product, and being on the right side of history. Same with angelpaste.com. Let's go there. Spring, Texas. They have the Miracle Cream and other products there. You could use that RSBN promo code. That'll get you a discount for the flagship product and also a number of other products there. So just use that RSBN promo code. Go to angelpaste.com. Another great sponsor here at Right Side. As it's 10:53 this morning, Friday, July 25th. Looking forward to 7 minutes from now as the conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon will join us. He's been actually making a lot of conservative media tours. He's been on a number of outlets over the past few months, and definitely ours as well. But when somebody's spitting truth and they're a commentator, analyst, and they're able to articulate things that really bring great context to what the heck's going on out there, it's always nice to have people like that on the line. We had Bruce Lavelle for just a second yesterday. We had a couple technical difficulties. We'll try and get him on again as well. Carla Sands with America First Policy Institute joined us as well earlier in the week. And if you were joining us at 9 this morning, I know bright and early out there on the West Coast, 6 a.m., but Keith Self, the Texas congressman, also joined us as we continue to broaden our coverage here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Always love the meat and potatoes, though, the stuff that got it all started, the good, solid rally coverage right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Think about all those rallies, all those great times. And whenever the president's in that Oval Office and he's getting some questions, from the fake news and, conservative media as well, which is great. But when people are trying to push on various things, I'm not talking about, major investigations. I'm not talking about Epstein stuff. I'm just talking about in general when they're trying to bring BS to Carolyn Leavitt or to President Trump. We have to remember that the hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, that have attended Trump rallies since 2015 all the way until just recently, and I believe there will be more rallies, think about for the midterms, right? So, and then maybe there will be more rallies in 2027, 2028 as well for the next candidate in the Republican Party. So there's a lot to be covered here in conservative media. But the point is, as I attempt to do the weave like President Trump does, is that we have to remember the passion, the love, the dedication, the support for President Trump, but also for what he's standing for. That's the thing I think we're all realizing is we're all about the truth of what's happening, or the common sense. That's the train we're on, is the truth train. And President Trump has been with the truth and on the side of truth. That's why we voted for him. And he's straight up talking about all of the big stories now, all of the investigations, whether it's against Barack Obama, whether it's about Epstein, he talked about it today outside the White House, whether it's about international trade deals. I mean, there's so many things going on. At the end of the day, who would you rather have in office right now to actually save our country and make it great again? Who, out of everybody out there, this is the one that we chose, and we want him to win. We want the reforms to stay in place, and we want those that have broken the law to be held accountable. That's it in a nutshell. That's what we want. This is actually a good time to bring on T.S. Dixon here in a second, conservative analyst and author, to kind of break down some of the 24/7 news cycle. Before we do that, let's go to two videos before we go to T.S. We always talk about the southern border here at the network. I know I talk about the border wall, and I always like seeing those Army Stryker vehicles. Can you believe that the U.S. Army is down on the southern border? It's not just our great, Customs Border Protection agents. There's local law enforcement. There's the National Guard, the Marines, the Coast Guard out in the sea, the Navy on the sea as well. But then there are Customs Border Protection agents doing great things with the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, on the northern border. Let's take a look at a video that was recently posted within this 24/7 news cycle. All right, so the northern border getting taken care of. I remember looking up specifics from Vermont sector. I mean, this is still something that is taken care of. Northern border, southern border, and the open sea for our country, for safety. It's great to see that. It's also great to see a Medal of Honor recipient, a Marine Corps retired Harvey Barnum Jr. joined the crew of his namesake destroyer. So the Department of Defense also naming a ship after him, honoring a hero. Take a look.
First of all, it's a great honor. And I'm very humble. You know, when I got the call that I was going to have a ship named after me, and then it was a war fighter, a DDG Arleigh Burke class, it made me very proud. I'm very honored to be here for this trial. And you know, I'm only the second person, namesake of a destroyer alive, to write it. When this ship sails into a port, look at her. She's a massive, domineering. It just shows what we have. So deterrence, a lot of these ships around the world, one of the missions is deterrence. And we need a military, strong military. The enemy knows how strong we are. They know their capabilities. And when we're on the line, showing those capabilities, they realize it. So we got to be on show all the time. If we don't step up to the plate, keep our eye on the ball, we're going to strike out. We're never going to hit home runs. And the ball, when we hit it, that's the mission. Keep our freedom. Don't give up what we fought for. We got to think of what it cost for you and I to enjoy our freedom.
Beautiful to see our members of our military, a Medal of Honor recipient honored there. A beautiful shot there of the sunset as well. Looking forward to a beach trip. I don't know if you guys have been to the beach yet, but holy smokes, man, it's nice to see some beautiful water in the sands, especially of the Gulf of America. It's the top of the hour. It's 11 a.m. Looking live there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. President Trump on Air Force One right now, headed over the pond, over the Atlantic Ocean, over to Scotland. He'll be there until Tuesday, July 29th. In the meantime, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. Also, rsbnetwork.com/donate. We also received word that some of you would like to send a check, so we have a P.O. box for you to send that to. It's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830. So thank you so much for donating to Right Side Broadcasting Network as we continue to grow and expand here at the network. 1 minute after 11. Before we go to the conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon, I'd like to play a video that we started out the broadcast with much earlier. So many of you that have joined since then may have not seen this, but let's specifically go to a few months ago. Well, actually, it's not a few months ago. It's just about a month ago, the Los Angeles area, when it came to all of the ICE arrests and all of that. Do you remember when this guy was throwing rocks at vehicles right there on the right side of your screen? Take a look here. He's just throwing them right at the windows of our great ICE and Customs Border Protection, Department of Homeland Security doing their job to get rid of criminal illegal aliens. Well, guess what? That guy on the right, he's now arrested. Take a look.
You're under arrest for assaulting federal agents.
Okay, so we saw that there in the southwest part of our country. In the meantime, let's get to President Trump's post from just recently. The radical left Democrats are doing everything in their power to distract and obfuscate from our great 6 months of service to America, results of which many are saying is the best 6 months in presidential history. They have gone absolutely crazy and are playing another Russia hoax, but this time under the guise of what we will call the Jeffrey Epstein scam. As things are revealed, and I hope will take place quickly, you will see that it is yet another Democrat con job. Hopefully the grand jury files will put an end to this hoax. Everyone should see what is there, but people who are innocent should not be hurt. Make America great again. That from President Trump within that 24/7 news cycle. So a lot of great posts there, of course, by the president. We saw him speak to reporters for a solid, I think, 15 to 20 minutes as he was on his way to Marine One, headed over to Joint Base Andrews, of course, on his way to Scotland now as we speak, as it's 11:04 this morning. Thanks again for streaming in live with us. We're momentarily, in a moment, we'll be going to T.S. Dixon to break down some of the coverage for us. And then after that, we'll head to the Sunshine State of Florida. We know that Governor Ron DeSantis is speaking at Alligator Alcatraz, so we'll dip into that and see that. Meantime, at this hour, we're monitoring new developments within the Department of National Intelligence regarding its reporting to the DOJ and FBI regarding the Obama-related election interference in 2016 and 2020, that according to Tulsi Gabbard. We're also monitoring any developments from the DOJ regarding the Epstein case. So we'll bring you the latest as we get it right here at the network. In the meantime, as we await T.S. Dixon, I think what we can do now is go to Tom Homan, the speech from Wednesday's CPAC Human Trafficking Summit. I didn't get a chance to watch this. I know it's about 10 minutes long, but after that, we'll go to T.S. Dixon here in just a minute. Let's just hold a second. Go ahead, producer. Okay, why don't we do this? Let's go to Homan first, and then we can go to Ron DeSantis after the TS interview. We could still probably carry that over past the 12 o'clock hour if need be. So let's go with Tom Homan, the speech from Wednesday's CPAC Human Trafficking Summit, and as soon as TS jumps on the line, we'll take you there live. So let's go to Wednesday at CPAC.
And our next speaker, I think it's fair to say, pretty much intimidates all the right people on a regular basis. He has the world's greatest title and really one of the toughest jobs as the border czar. I give you Tom Homan. Come on out, Czar, Mr. Czar. You know, I do want to say, Tom loves CPAC before he was an official czar. You know, you're a long time coming to our events, and we appreciate it. All right, man.
How's that? First of all, I'm glad to be back. This is the second time I unretired for President Trump, and I'm excited about it. So let's start this with Trump 45. When trafficking happened across the border, we realized trafficking was going on. What did we do about it? We established DNA testing. We made sure families were families. We did a pilot program. Some of the pilot programs show as high as 30% of families claiming their families weren't families at all. Fast forward to the Biden administration. They stopped DNA testing. They stopped a majority of the trafficking investigations. For 4 years, I woke up every day pissed off because I knew children were being trafficked. I knew women and children being sex trafficked. I knew children were coming across the border being released to the very people that paid to have them smuggled, that conspired with alien smuggling organizations to have their child smuggled, put their child in the hands of criminal cartels to be snuck across the border. And I knew, based on my 4 years of experience, what some of these children most likely went through. So every day I woke up pissed off. Because when you open the border up, people are going to come. When you make a promise to the whole world, you can cross the border illegally, it's a crime, but don't worry about it. We'll release you within 24 hours, send you to the city of your choice with a taxpayer-funded plane ticket, put you in a free hotel room, give you 3 meals a day, and work authorization within 3 months. I knew the whole world was going to take advantage of that. The most vulnerable people in the world would take advantage of that giveaway program. And what did that do? It brought millions to the border, overwhelmed the Border Patrol. We're up to 70% of agents are off the line. Changing diapers, making baby formula, making hospital runs, making travel arrangements. 70% of agents off the line. There was several moments, actually many moments in that 4 years, where the entire sector of U.S. Border Patrol agents were pulled off the line to deal with overcrowding, process, and dealing with that humanitarian crisis. When you remove 70% of agents off the line, that's when bad things happen. That's when trafficking exploded to historic highs. That's when sex trafficking exploded to historic highs. That's when enough fentanyl came across to kill 250,000 Americans. That's when we went from 14 people on the terrorist watch list arrested during Trump 45 to over 400 under Joe Biden. So every day I woke up pissed off. So I couldn't wait to see President Trump win office back, because I knew we'd come back and we fix it, and we did. As of today, we got the most secure border in my lifetime, the most secure border in the history of this nation. And what does that mean? That means less trafficking. That means less, go ahead, that's great. Less no-inspected terrorists crossing the border, less trafficking of children, less sex trafficking, less drugs, less fentanyl, and we're bankrupting the criminal cartels of Mexico with President Trump. I said this before the election, and I say it again, and I mean it. President Trump will be the first president in American history to wipe the criminal cartels of Mexico off the face of the earth. So what are we doing? I can tell you we're all over the trafficking issue. Again, because the border is secure, we have less of it happening. Gotaways under Joe, and let me just mention, because these data points mean something. An average day under Joe Biden, we had 1,800 known gotaways. People who crossed the border, weren't apprehended, weren't fingerprinted, weren't vetted. An average of 1,800. Last 24 hours, that number was 21. Less gotaways. The reason there's less gotaways is because every single Border Patrol agent is on the line, vigilant, securing that border at the highest level ever. So there's not the opportunity, like was under Biden administration, for thousands of people to be trafficked across that border. Our main focus right now is not just make sure that border is the most secure we ever had, which it is now, is to find the thousands and thousands of children that were trafficked in this country, released to unvetted sponsors, and the last administration lost track of 300,000 of them, and they weren't looking for them. Another thing that pisses me off. What did President Trump do? President Trump committed to three things. When President Trump called me and asked me to come back, he wanted me to take control over three things. One, secure the border. Two, run the biggest deportation operation this country ever seen. And three, find these kids. So we've already located right around 10,000. I'm not happy. We got a hell of a lot more to find. And I will do everything in my power. This administration will do everything in its power to find every single one of these kids. Here's the problem. I'll just be frank with you. Because the last administration didn't do things right, because they didn't really care, these sponsors weren't properly vetted. I'm finding out through whistleblowers that Many of these sponsors weren't fingerprinted. Identifications weren't verified. So I can find you all. You all have a digital footprint, right? You all own cars, you own homes, you got credit cards, you pay bills. We can find you. But children don't have that footprint. They don't have what we need to easily find them. So we got to count on the footprint, the digital footprint of the sponsors. And when they weren't properly vetted, their identifications weren't vetted, they weren't fingerprinted. Now we're working with data that's just terrible. I mean, many of the addresses HSI is showing up at are parking lots, grocery stores. I know there's one case where one man sponsored over 20 children. How the hell did that happen? The last administration didn't care. All they cared about opening the border up, bringing as many people as they can. Because they obviously thought they were future Democratic voters, but they also thought they'd be counted in the next census, so Democrats earn more seats in the House. They sold this country out for future political power, and they sold the children out. But President Trump has made a commitment that we're going to find every one of these children. We have HSI agents every day going across this country. Despite what the media says, HSI is seeking down kids to deport them. We're seeking kids to save them. Some of these kids we have found were in forced sex slavery, sex trafficking. Some of these kids were in forced labor. You've read about them. Not all of them. Many of these children will be with families, safe. God help us, hope they all are. But that's simply not the fact. We have rescued children. We'll continue rescuing children every day. That's the facts you won't read about. I've actually asked for updated data that we'll hopefully get out in front of the presser in the near future. But I want you to know, every day I wake up, I look at the data, and I'm pushing as hard as I can. The White House president's pushing as hard as he can to make sure we're putting every resource available into finding every one of these children. And to permanently shut down sex trafficking and prosecute the animals that are involved in this. And for those that you're here amongst some of the best congressmen and senators in this nation, if you see them, shake their hand and thank them for the big, beautiful bill, because now we have a whole bunch of money that we're going to get more resources, more boots on the ground, more agents to knock on those doors, more technology to help us find these kids, more attorneys to prosecute the animals that are involved with trafficking. So the big, beautiful bill, you think we're doing great things right now? Hold on tight and watch what happens in the future. So thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
The borders are the great Tom Homan speaking just the other day at CPAC, the summit that was happening there about human trafficking. That was on Wednesday. In the meantime, as we get ready for our interview with T.S. Dixon, and then we'll be going to Florida with Ron DeSantis as he's speaking at Alligator Alcatraz. All Family Pharmacy, great sponsor here. If you've been frustrated with those long pharmacy lines, the insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. All Family Pharmacy is changing how people get their medications. No insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. So they carry the essentials like NAD+, methylene blue, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, antibiotics, and more than 200 medications. So it's perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And guess what? They have a doctor's prescription with every order. So no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple, quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. So all you have to do is go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code to save 10% off your order. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10. Let's go now to MyPillow, mypillow.com/RSBN, free shipping sale. Always good to see that. More than 2,000 products, and there's some large products, as you guys know, on MyPillow. So to get that for free when it comes to shipping, the shipping is free on it, not the item. But still, there's a lot of great discounts on there. So just mypillow.com/RSBN. The thing that's great about it is all the discounts and the free shipping. These are actually really quality products. That's pretty cool to see that. So mypillow.com/RSBN. I know a lot of you guys have some MyPillow products out there. I know my family and I, we love them as well. All right, let's shift gears now before we head down to Florida for the Governor Ron DeSantis. Let's go to T.S. Dixon, the conservative analyst and author. T.S., what's your current take on the 24/7 news cycle right now? There's so many directions you can go, I'm sure.
There's a lot going on. I like seeing how Trump is taking the Fed to task with Jerome Powell. I enjoyed watching their tour of the bloated and overblown Fed construction project where they're remodeling the headquarters, a project that didn't need to be done in the first place. It was already a very opulent government building. But it just goes to show you that the Fed thinks that they can blow through America's money. I mean, it was supposed to be, I think, $1 billion project or something around that, went up to 2.5, and then Trump announced yesterday it went up to 3.1, 3.2 billion dollars. I mean, that is just a great example of just how much the Fed is taking our money and wasting it.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, President Trump correcting the Fed Chairman Powell, saying this is how much it is. You're the one that reported this. It's from you. It was a nice little back and forth. Again, President Trump, you know, when it comes down to it, common sense, truth, and strength. And we're seeing that, to your point from earlier in the week. You called him, I guess it was Hulk Trump, in the sense of going after the people that have broken the law. Can you talk to us about that a little bit? No one is above the law.
Yeah, you know, Matt, again, I brought a visual aid for your audience here. Let me just pull up the screen here. Yeah, is that coming through okay?
I haven't seen it yet.
All right. Well, hold on one second. There we go. I think one of the great things about Trump is he channels sort of the zeitgeist and the sentiment of the people. He's the populist leader, and so, you know, we know they tried to kill him multiple times with assassination attempts. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They've done countless persecutions of him under the guise of prosecutions with the Get Trump thing, and I think that made Trump angry. But then when he won the election, he sort of let bygones be bygones and just focused on fixing the country. But now that they're coming after him again, I think we need to see Hulk Trump unleashed. And again, he is the top cop in America. He's the #1 premier law enforcement officer in the country as the head executive of the executive branch. And I'm promoting the idea that I think Trump needs to go to war on government crime, not just corruption, but crime. And he needs to harness the prosecutorial power that's vested in him by the Constitution as the chief executive. And he is really, in essence, the head of all of the prosecutors. So he's also the chief prosecutor in the country. And we need to see him use that power to open investigations and prosecute crimes wherever they're found. Again, I believe he should hire 21 outside U.S. attorneys or DOJ attorneys to go and investigate these things. I would call them Trump's 21 guns. All outsider MAGA people. Jeanine Pirro's a great start, Ed Martin, and others, Alina Habba. I think he needs to focus and show this strike force is being put in place by his administration to root out crime and bring justice. And then this is the bingo card, the evidence board of just 20 highly publicized crimes that we've seen the government commit over the last decade or more. And with no justice, no investigations, no prosecutions. And so justice has been delayed, but doesn't need to be that way any longer. Trump will be loved and adored by the people if he goes out and shows that there's not a two-tier justice system in America, that there's freedom and justice for all.
Exactly. So you've been talking about the fact that that's important in order to keep the reforms locked in for our country, not only for these next 3.5 years, but for the future, to keep the basics, right? The Constitution, our freedoms, all of that, and to keep the deep state way out of it because they're getting prosecuted if they broke the law. So the importance of all of this, conservatism to stay the way. I mean, what's your analysis on that and how we get there? Is it just that, prosecutions, and it will take care of it?
You know, it's an extremely important, it's the most important, in my opinion, step of the reforms. You know, a lot of people don't know how we got to the modern world, how we went from living in caves or sailing around on wooden ships for 5,000 years and riding on horses and camels to now having airplanes and rockets and computers and cell phones and living in modern houses with air conditioning and big screen flat TVs. You know, they don't know how we got here, but I'll tell you how we got here. We got here through a series of massive populist movements in Western civilization that swelled together to bring a champion leader to fight the establishment that was controlling Western civilization, holding us down and stealing all the money. And then we overcame them. And each time we've done that, reforms have taken place that have permanently changed society, further and further perfecting it and improving it to the conditions that we enjoy today, where we are the richest, most prosperous civilization the world has ever seen. But that all came through a series of gigantic political reform movements. And so we're in the midst of another one right now where Trump has been put in office by the MAGA movement to undo and break the power of the global banking establishment that has corrupted our political system, and primarily through use of commandeering, corrupting our institutions, and wielding the power of a deep state. And so he really must break the power of this deep state and cripple the power of this globalist movement if we are going to be successful in bringing Western civilization, America, and other Western countries now to the next level of improvement, this golden era, this next age. And so that's why it's so important. And we have a short period of time for Trump to do these reforms. He's done a great job in reversing a lot of policy, but now he's got to also clean out corruption and punish crime to deter it and expose these two groups who have really been operating with criminality.
So can you talk to us about then El Salvador and the president there, Nayib Bukele? What do you know about that president and how he's handled it in order to get that country to where it is today?
You know, El Salvador had become completely corrupted. It was controlled by outside forces like banking forces and whatnot. So he came in, he broke that immediately, and then all of the corrupt officers of his government, he put all of them under investigation. Then he empowered the police and the military to go out and grab all the drug dealers and the criminals and the gangs and throw their butt in jail. And he built brand new high security, high tech prisons to house them. And they're a model for the world. But the big thing that he did was he investigated everybody in the federal government, and he arrested and brought justice. You know, just because you're part of the federal government doesn't mean that one of the fringe benefits is that you can commit unlimited crime and get away with it. That's insane. Our country stands for freedom, but also for justice for all. And so we can't have these criminal organizations that have become more like mobs and mafias than federal agencies running around committing all of this mass crime and violating the amendments of the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. They take an oath to protect and uphold and defend the Constitution. Then they quickly go about breaking it and violating our rights. You know, the Constitution is our supreme law. It overrides all other laws. And if you break it, there's consequences.
Exactly. Your thoughts about Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, and Carolyn Levitt at that press conference earlier this week. President Trump speaking about it today as well. Also talking about the Epstein case. There's so many different things going on. But your reaction to Tulsi Gabbard right now?
I think it's brilliant. What we're seeing Tulsi do is something that's so refreshing. We haven't really seen government agency heads do something like this, where they are outing former federal agency heads for their crimes. It's refreshing, it's wonderful, and I'll say this, it's a great start. Trump, we want more. Thanks for the taste, thanks for the bite. Now, we want more. You know, like that bingo card that I just showed you that has all of these crimes that we're fully familiar with. Most of the evidence has been disclosed by the media, so we're fully aware of it, just like Crossfire Hurricane. And yet, what is the Department of Justice doing? In the past, they've done nothing. Hopefully, they've been running and gathering information and running investigations behind the scenes since early on in his second term. But now we really need to see this publicized. He needs to feature this to the American people, that he has this criminal justice agenda, this war on government crime, and he and his team are getting to work. And I think if he publicizes and lionizes these attorneys as heroes, they will get the public support and protection that they need, because they're going to be taking great personal risk.
Exactly. And so this is on top of all of the wins that we've seen with the reforms, no men and women's sports, closing the southern border, the ICE arrests, which are surging right now, the economy, the international trade deals, all the great stuff. But are you saying simply this, and I'm going to really dumb it down real easy, all of the good things that have happened, can they simply, if we don't arrest the right people that have broken the law, if another president comes in that's on the left side of history, can all of what President Trump is doing this term get reversed? And it'll be 50 times as worse than Biden was if people aren't held accountable, the ones that are going to want to try and do that in the first place. And we're talking about, again, only those that have broken the law.
Well, you tell me, Matt. I mean, Trump was already in office for 4 years. What happened the day he left office? They shut down all the oil pipelines, right? They shut down the supply. They created a massive inflation. We were having to helicopter and airdrop baby formula in because in America we ran out. We just couldn't produce baby formula. They opened wide the gates of the border and flooded us with 25 million illegal aliens. They began persecuting and trampling on the rights of conservative media figures and doctors. So you tell me how fast the reforms can be undone if we let a criminal government back into power. There is the only remedy. There's plenty of remedy. They're happy to go after the people. They're happy to go after different smaller companies and whatnot. But when those at the top commit crimes, we only have one remedy in our system of government. Okay, and that's the executive, the president, and his Department of Justice. If they don't go after major criminals at the top of our federal government or collaborators, then we have no justice. That is the only remedy in our system. That's it.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Also,
so he must do this. I case studied in my book, The Woke Mind Viruses, successful reform movements in different eras and in different countries. And there's really 4 phases. The rediscovery, where we get educated on what's going on and who we're up against and what they're doing to us to harm us and oppress us. The retaking phase, where we retake our institutions through elections or what have you, which we did last year, sweeping Trump back into office. The reform phase, where the new policies, legislation gets passed. But that's not enough. You need the 4th phase, which is the redress of grievances in the administration of justice, because that's the only thing that's going to deter these criminals from coming right back and going right back to what they were doing before, to dismantle our country and take all our wealth.
Exactly. I mean, President Trump spoke about this various times, about dismantling the deep state and obliterating, globalists and that kind of thing when it comes to people that are coming against our nation. So we know that he's spoken about it. We know that we're seeing Tulsi Gabbard take that first big step right there earlier in the week. But
it's a great step. More. We want more.
No, I mean, I hear you.
A lot more.
I agree, but also I think that we the people, the comments that I've been reading, a lot of times we'll be covering various events, and I'm just going to be really transparent, because why not? We have freedom of speech to do that. I've seen people say, but where are the arrests? A lot of people have said that. So again, only arresting those that have actually broken the law. And if we have receipts and evidence, that's part of what we have to do. That's common sense. These are great points you're making. And I want to ask you one more question before we go. Can you talk to us about, you said at the FBI and the DOJ a couple weeks back when you were on, that some of the levels down also should be purged from these departments. And tell us about that again and why that was important.
Right. So what we're seeing here, the reason that Pam Bondi came out with these binders, because she was told by her subordinates that was the Epstein files, and she believed them. and she was publicly embarrassed, and so were many conservative MAGA influencers. Then they went and brought all this other evidence and told her, more information that proved to be false, and told them that this video was legit and there was no time missing and it proved everything. And so we see time and time again that the subordinates at leadership and management levels at these agencies are rogue. We have rogue members of the DOJ, the FBI, and of course they are. You're coming into a hostile environment where your political enemies were in power and being supported by this deep state and installing their people into these leadership positions. So the first thing you should do when you come in is clean house. You can't have the leaders and managers of your enemies running your departments, or you're going to get subterfuge and you're never going to have full control over these departments. And so my opinion, 2 to 3 layers down of leadership from the top appointments should be terminated, let go with severance, and they, no hard feelings. It's just, this is our administration, not the previous ones. And we need to have our people in place. And then, they will have 80, 90, 100% control of these agencies that can do their work without interference.
Well, you said...
And you won't have things like tainted evidence, which is what it looks like we have in the Southern District of New York with the Epstein case.
Right, because you said
that is an example of a rogue FBI and DOJ, trying to plant evidence and do a setup. We can't... Are we still going to have to deal with all this nonsense again for another 4 years? We already had enough of this with the Russiagate hoax and the special investigation and Rosenstein and all these people that were just out to get Trump. Let's learn our lessons from the past and clean house at the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, and have our people in power, have our people in management and leadership. One of the guys that was hunting down J6ers to ruin their lives and throw them in prison for trespassing, he got promoted under this administration. He went up into higher leadership. This is insane. I think his name was Jansen.
And then you were talking about Maureen Comey just last week. You were surprised that she was still, in government at a position.
I was shocked that she was still there. Absolutely.
The next day, I believe she was let go. So, unless that was, your words that made it happen, regardless of how it's happening, TS, what we want in this country is it to be saved and fully rescued. And that's the 30,000-foot view. And we're hearing from people like you and others saying, well, here's a great way to do things. Now, we already know that a lot of them know what to do, but your input is really, I believe, valuable, really valuable.
Trump has this amazing power called the prosecutorial power to open any investigation with probable cause and to pursue justice. And to indict and convict people through the judiciary. So if we don't use this power, we fail the country and we fail the West, honestly. And the Democrats or whoever will get right back in, and it'll be worse than it was under Biden. We'll be California and the country will be burning down, not just the Palisades. It's sad, but it's true. This is their vision for us, to turn the whole country into San Francisco. And then eventually communist China. We can't let that happen. This is the future of our country and the future for our children. So he needs to wield he learned how to wield his pardon power. It's amazing. Now he needs to learn how to wield his prosecutorial power and empower his attorneys and his outsiders to come in and do the job and pursue justice and open I showed you that scorecard with 20 different crimes we're fully aware of that we know the evidence on. I want to see 20 attorneys opening 20 investigations into each one of those crimes. That'd be another great start. And I also want to say this. I think it's unfathomable that the other power that the president should have is the power over interest rates. And the fact that he has to beg and plead and embarrass a Fed chairman that he supposedly can't fire, which also is insane to me, just to beg him for a few basis points on the prime rate is insane to me. The fact that we elect a president and that president, that representative of the people, can't even change the interest rate for the banking system, that to me does not make sense.
I'll tell you what, I know it's Friday, July 25th, but you're coming at us like it's a Tuesday in the middle of a busy news day. But I hear you loud and clear, and the people hear you. because I'm seeing a lot of comments about some of the things you're saying. T.S. Dixon, conservative analyst and author, thanks again for joining us. I'm sure you'll be back on the broadcast, and good luck out there, too. I know you've been on a number of conservative podcasts and broadcasts, so keep the good work up and keep it going.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. All right, so 11:37, Friday, July 25th. Thanks so much for streaming in on this broadcast. Of course, if you missed any coverage starting at 9 this morning, we saw President Trump outside the White House boarding Marine One. We saw him board Air Force One. He's now over the Atlantic Ocean somewhere on the way to Scotland. He'll be back on Tuesday, July 29th. Before we get to Florida with Governor Ron DeSantis speaking at Alligator Alcatraz, let's go to kalshi.com/RSBN. Use that QR code if you'd like. Gets you right to that website, or you can download the app, the Kalshi app. Great, so is the website there. All sorts of topics to bet and trade on, or just check out the polling. See what people are saying about all these topics. More than 1 million people on this website and this app, and that number is growing. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, angelpace.com, Spring, Texas, of course. You can use that RSBN promo code. Gets you a nice discount on a number of products there, the Miracle Cream and other products that you'll see on angelpace.com, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, a great gift idea as well, angelpace.com. All right, 11:39, Friday, July 25th, looking live at the White House there. We know that the president's on his way in Air Force One to Scotland. In the meantime, let's go to a governor. Let's go to Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida, who moments ago was speaking at Alligator Alcatraz. Let's go there now.
Field Office Director Garrett Ripa and Executive Immigration Director for the state of Florida, Larry Keefe. As you've heard me say many times, the 2024 election was a huge mandate from the American people to finally deal and put to bed the issue of illegal immigration once and for all. And part of that, of course, was the border security, but a lot of that was the reality that you had massive numbers of people that have come into this country illegally, and they needed to be repatriated to their home countries. And so we knew in Florida that this was something that was important to our state. We knew we had an opportunity to really make a difference, and so we decided to stand up. And that was nothing new for us. We were the first state to send people to help Texas when Biden opened the border back in 2021. I launched Operation Vigilant Sentry a couple years ago to help fill gaps in the maritime interdiction efforts of the Coast Guard, that when illegals try to come in via the sea to the shores of Florida. And just from the state's effort, in addition to everything the Coast Guard's done, just the state of Florida, we've ended up stopping and returning 18,000 illegal aliens, and we just had a bust the other day. So that's been really important to keep the state of Florida safe. We've also done things like ban sanctuary cities. We've ensured that there are no ID cards, of course no driver's license, but any ID cards to illegals. We've increased penalties on illegals who operate motor vehicles. And so we're proud to have been a leader in that even before the Trump administration took in. But then when that happened, we sprung into action on our state agencies doing these 287G agreements with Department of Homeland Security. That basically allows us at the state level to be working in tandem on immigration enforcement. And that wasn't true under the Biden administration. I'd have Highway Patrol, they'd pull over illegal aliens, and then they'd have to call ICE, and ICE didn't want to deal with them, so they basically had to release them back into the community. And so now they have the ability to bring those folks and process them for immigration enforcement, which I think is something that's really, really important. We, of course, called for a special session of the Florida legislature at the beginning of the year, saying, hey, this is our moment. This is what we all campaigned on. Let's get it done. And you know, we had some pushback on that initially. I think some of these guys They didn't want to follow through on their campaign promises. They even sent me a bill that would have made things like Alligator Alcatraz and Operation Vigilant Sentry illegal in the state of Florida. Of course, I vetoed that. Blaise Ingoglia was in the Senate there, and he was very much standing on the side of the voters that sent us here, and he opposed that sanctuary bill. We ended up getting good legislation passed that requires all state and local agencies in Florida to participate in immigration enforcement efforts. And so that really began in earnest months ago, and it has had a lot of success. But the one thing that we were running into was that DHS just did not have capacity to be able to hold and process these illegal aliens prior to deportation. We were using our sheriffs were using some of their local facilities. We would do what we could at the state level, but there was a huge need for additional capacity. And obviously they had a rough 4 years under Biden, really letting the agency wilt in ways that it was never intended to do. So we were asked, hey, if there's any way you can help with this, this is what you want to do. So the site here at the Dade Collier Airport in the heart of South Florida was a unique opportunity because while it was an existing footprint with a massive runway, it was something that was not necessarily full or being used all the time. And so we were able to, under Kevin Guthrie's leadership, within record time, create a facility that could support intaking, processing, and eventually deporting these illegal aliens. And that's important to deport from Florida, but obviously from the United States as well. So we have capacity now for a couple thousand. We can expand that as demand is there. And we're looking forward to being able to do that. I know that the administration has called on other states to follow suit and expand this type of capacity, and I would just reiterate that call. I think it's important. I think it'll make a difference. And so we're here today to say, this was never intended to be something where people are just held and we just kind of twiddle our thumbs. The whole purpose is to make this be a place that can facilitate increased frequency and numbers of deportations of illegal aliens, and that is the goal. And one of the reasons why this was a sensible spot is because you have this runway that's right here. You don't have to drive them an hour to an airport. You go a couple thousand feet and they can be on a plane and out of here. So I'm pleased to report that those flights out of Alligator Alcatraz by DHS have begun. The cadence is increasing. We've already had a number of flights in the last few days. We've had hundreds of illegals have been removed from here, and the federal government has a process of how they eventually do, and they've done it different ways on some of these different flights. But the reality is this provides an ability to enhance the mission, to increase the number and frequency of deportations. And so what's been done here has really been remarkable. There's full ground-to-air communications from the airfield. There's air tracking radar capabilities on site, securing all access ports to the taxiway and runway on aircraft arrival. That happens. You got 5,000 gallons of jet fuel on site. You got runway lighting. You got everything you need to be able to do that. This airport is able to accept commercial-sized aircraft and conduct both day and nighttime operations. And so that's what it's all about, to be able to help process and remove folks that are legally in the state of Florida and in the United States of America. So we look forward to this cadence increasing. One of the things when the president came and visited that he approved was deputizing state officers, including National Guard judge advocates, to be immigration judges. And the vision is to just have them on site. You can move forward with the processing very quickly and increase the numbers, and the flow would be there'd be a high turnover rate here because you'd be constantly doing that. We're working very closely with the Department of Justice. We have not yet had any approval for anybody to be able to come down here and do that, but we do anticipate that happening very soon. And when that happens, you're going to have an availability of a lot of folks to be able to be ripe to be able to be removed and ultimately sent back to their home countries. I've also pointed out we've been supportive of the efforts that if somebody is earmarked to come here and they would choose to simply voluntarily deport. Now, they're not just going to take your word for it. They're going to take you, chaperone you, make sure that you're on that aircraft and that you're landed in your home country. But there is resources available to do that. And I think that makes sense from a taxpayer perspective because it's cheaper to do it that way. It's also more efficient. So anybody that is wants to take up on the offer can do it. We've had some people take up on the offer, and it's not just limited to Alligator Alcatraz. That's something that in any of these instances with immigration enforcement, that's a way to short circuit and ultimately get where we're trying to go anyways. So that is something that's a live possibility, and I hope more and more people avail themselves of that opportunity. And you know, you all, I mean, you have all these, some of these complaints, like it's just the lengths that people are going to try to make an issue out of everything. You know, there was one report, one of the illegals said that his ham sandwich was cold. And I'm thinking to myself, you're entitled to toasted hoagies? First of all, Jimmy John's is one of the most successful sandwich places in a country. They didn't have any toasted subs until very recently. They had only done cold subs, and it became a massive success, financial success. Now they do offer toasted subs. I don't think they do cheesesteaks. My kids like the cheesesteak from Jersey Mike's, but be that as it may, to say that the AC's on too much, it's too cold, or this or that, at some point it's like, good grief, just acknowledge the fact that what Kevin and these guys done has been a Herculean effort to get this up, that they are meeting or exceeding every state or federal standard, whichever's higher, and that this is in fact a force multiplier to be able to assist with the removal of illegal aliens from the country, and that's what it is. And so they've done a really good job on this. When I see this stuff, I don't even have to ask him because I know, I know that there's that you're not being told the whole story. And I think it's also interesting that there's folks in particularly corporate media. You'll have a criminal alien ordered to be deported, has committed criminal offenses in addition to immigration, and he will just assert something, and that will be reported as fact with no corroboration. It's interesting. You would never say if somebody that was on law enforcement just asserted. You would always ask questions, and you would do that. But somehow, with the criminal alien, you'll just accept that. And why? Because it fits the desired narrative. That's why people do it. I'll do both of you. You go first, and then you go. It will depend on the path of the storm. So Kevin has contingency plans. People are like, what happens if a hurricane hit? And I just think to myself, this ain't our first rodeo, okay? We know in Florida, anything is susceptible to have to be evacuated. And there's some areas that may be a little bit more vulnerable, but there's not a single place in the state that you would be totally immune from having any impacts of hurricanes. But it also depends on the shape of the storm, the trajectory of the storm. So they have that built out. And, we do this in different contexts. We do it in the corrections context and have done it in the corrections context. We also have to redeploy first responders. So for Hurricane Milton, we were staged at Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Bay Rays. It's a convenient, very efficient place to do it. Well, Kevin's watching the storm. He's watching how it's coming, and he made the decision, we got to evacuate them out of there because we think it's going to be impacted by the storm. And of course it was. The roof got blown off, although the roof was supposed to withstand a little more than it did. So the roof got blown off. So those guys were strategically redeployed, and then they got on target just like it was. So that will happen. There'll be accommodations that will be made that's accordingly. This stuff, though, can withstand non-major hurricane, Cat 1, Cat 2. Doesn't mean you can't have it. Now, the more interior you are, you guys who've covered hurricanes know when it hits land, it does slow down. So if we have a hurricane that hits Southwest Florida as a weak Cat 3, by the time it gets here, maybe those winds would be sub Cat 2. I mean, these are judgments that will be made accordingly. and there will be preparations made. And I'll just echo something Kevin said, because DEM is overseeing this, that must mean that they're not doing the standard preparations for hurricanes. That's obviously ridiculous. These, as you know, these are contracted folks. There are DEM personnel who are helping to coordinate, but we've got massive resources that are on standby in the event that we have additional major weather events. And I'm hoping that we don't. And I always tell people, we've had 6 majors in 7 years. We deserve a break remember, we had 10 years. We didn't have any recently. Wouldn't it be great to get another 10-year stretch? And I sincerely hope for that, but I do not expect that or plan for that. We have to plan as if we're going to have more events this year, writ large, even apart from Alligator Alcatraz. But if you had like a Hurricane Michael trajectory, you wouldn't need to evacuate anybody from here. If you had a Hurricane Irma trajectory, then you'd probably need to make some accommodations. And so these are things that these guys will watch. They have contingency plans. There's not one specific place where they will go to, because you don't want to evacuate people into additional storm. Well, they have done that. When the President of the United States was here, we had the White House press pool that was following us through all these facilities. You've had different politicians that have come. Now, a lot of them have been posturing, but they have come. Here's the thing: this is not a spectacle, okay? You don't get to go into other facilities willy-nilly either. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. I think they have a job to do here. I think they're doing it. And I think that they're doing it well. And so we're going to continue, and Kevin's going to be able to make judgments about what's best for the mission, and I'm going to stand by his judgments on what's best for the mission. Okay, but respectfully, and where are you from? Okay. How many illegals have been apprehended by state law enforcement? Thousands and thousands. Do you honestly think we could underwrite a $30,000 check for each illegal that was apprehended with those massive numbers? Of course not. Of course not. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. I can tell you that I worked very hard to get pay increases for Florida Highway Patrol in this year's budget. I wanted 25% for experience. We didn't get quite that much, but we did get a significant, and we'll probably work more. No, but the idea that you'd get $30,000 for every illegal, that wouldn't even be cost effective. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. Same as you would through any FEMA reimbursement. So there have been 100 full deportations just out of here. There have been many other hundreds who've been flown out of here. The way the federal government does is they have some areas that are considered kind of hubs. And so I know some flights have gone to Louisiana, and then they will go from Louisiana. And it makes sense logistically, because, if we've got a plane full of people here from a variety of nationalities, if you go to a central hub, then you can pool the nationalities and send one flight to one place, another flight to another place. So that's what we're doing. But there have been 100 folks that have fully been deported, and there have been many hundred that have been exited this facility and are en route to be deported by the federal government. And look, I think a lot of people getting them out of Florida is a huge thing. It's like we obviously had a transport program, send to California, send to New York, send to Martha's Vineyard even. And we were happy to do that because I think it relieved burdens on Florida. But yeah, so they've got a process that they're doing. Now DHS has run into some more money now. I think you're going to see an expanded footprint in their capacity. I think you're going to see an expanded detention footprint in their capacity. And I'm all about, people say why are you getting involved? Because we need it. That's why I'm getting involved. If DHS had 100% capacity to handle and process 100% of the illegals, then I'd be happy to just say, you know what, we've got other things to be doing, but we're needed in this fight now. Other states have been asked to step up. I hope they do, and I think you're going to see DHS's capacity continue to increase. But right now, they've they had 4 really tough years in terms of the attention and the direction, and so it's a new day, but it takes some time. Well, one, I don't have bug spray on. I know people have it or what, but so on the deportation, look, that's a question for DHS. As I said, they've got processes that they go through. They can do a direct deportation from here. They can do to one of the hubs, and then the hub can take them. And I know that they have used El Salvador. I don't know that anyone from here has gone there yet. But so I just can't answer that. But I think DHS could answer that. Okay, who has a question who hasn't asked one? Yes, ma'am. None, because we've looked at it. It doesn't have an impact. As Kevin said, there were hundreds of flights going in here, training flights. There are less flights now doing that. Everything that you see built is on the existing infrastructure, so it's not going to have an impact. And I would note, particularly for people in your region, I just did something no one thought could get done as quickly as we did, open the C-43 reservoir. And so you remember, before I became governor back in 2018, there was a lot of water being spewed out of Lake Okeechobee. It interacted with the red tide. It created some real serious problems for quality of life, tourism, and the economy. And now we've got a massive reservoir that can store that water, clean it. It can send to Southwest Florida in the dry season when they want it. And that is a huge, huge thing. So the number one environmental issue that was present in 2018, this stuff being spewed in from the lake, we addressed it head on and have completed this massive infrastructure project. And if you also look at the hydrology of the Everglades, what I said was, we got to have water flow south as nature and God intended. And the amount of water flowing south compared to when I became governor, dramatic increase. This thing, I looked into, should we buy it and then grow over it? Would that? But it doesn't really do a lot to increase the hydrology. That money could be spent much better doing the stuff that we're doing. So there's not going to be an impact here. But even if this wasn't here, if I had to pay money to mothball it, I think that money would probably be better off doing the pump stations like we're doing at the EAA reservoir that the Army Corps has given us responsibility over. So that's going to be bid on and procured. We're going to move forward with that. So all those things I think are very important. But this has been huge success that we have had with Everglades restoration. We're continuing the momentum. This delegation of authority that we announced down in Marco Island last week, huge deal for the state of Florida. They were looking at the federal share being done 2034. Now it's going to be done 5 years earlier because the state is being given resources to be able to go forward and do this. And so it's been a huge cornerstone of what we've done. The progress is undeniable. This is not, anything that's impacting. In fact, there are less flights as a result of what we're doing than there were before that. Okay, they truck it out. Yeah. There's no sewer or any. They just truck the waste out. They bring in potable water and they do it. So, look, that's more expensive to do. That's more cumbersome. But we weren't willing to do this facility if we weren't managing that in a way that was not going to have impacts. And so that's what we're trying to do. So they're running these things out of here all the time. And I think they've done a really good job doing it. And they're basically, this existing concrete is what they're using. I mean, you look, there's grass in the interior here. Honestly, there'd be no reason that you couldn't use that's not going to affect the Everglades. But they're not even using that. They're literally just staying on the concrete. So I think it's been a really incredible footprint that they've been able to do with this. Yeah. So the self-deportations is, obviously the feds are doing it. we're willing to do it as part of this FEMA reimbursement as well from here. Now that's got to be supervised, because some of these people, we're not just going to like, hey, take a ticket. Say no. They're going to be escorted. They're going to do that. But when and so we've done. How many have we done? We've done it not from here necessarily, but statewide. We've done it. 20-something. Yeah. We've done like 24 self-deportations that have been funded. But any self-deportation out of here, if we pay for the ticket, that is subject to FEMA reimbursement, we believe. So we're happy to do that. I think it saves money. Honestly, it saves the state money, because there's a lot of burdens that get placed, when you have this many folks doing it. So we'll keep providing updates on this. I think you're going to see the cadence on these flights start to pick up. Obviously, honestly, to get to where we were at the beginning of this month and now have flights leaving already with a facility that's been built out, that's incredible. It's incredible work by Kevin Guthrie, incredible cooperation with DHS and the Trump administration. A lot of hard work has gone into it. So thanks for everybody that's been involved in this. This is making a difference. This is just the opening stage. You're going to see this really ramp up, especially given DHS's infusion of cash, and particularly all those illegals that are already been ordered to be removed. We need to get that done. I mean, the rule of law really depends on it, and the vitality and safety of our communities depend on it. Okay, thank you.
As you saw, Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida at Alligator Alcatraz addressing the media, speaking about a very hyper-local issue there, but not really. National issue. Think about it. I mean, all of the people, criminal illegal aliens, being processed, housed, and deported from that specific spot there in the Everglades. All right, so this whole broadcast brought to you by a number of great sponsors, including All Family Pharmacy. If you've been frustrated with those long pharmacy lines, insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. It's with All Family Pharmacy. They're changing how people get their medications. No insurance needed, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. They carry essentials like NAD+ or methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and more than 200 other medications. So it's perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And also, every order includes the doctor's prescription. So no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple, quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. So it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 code for that 10% off. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10. Also, mypillow.com/RSBN as well. Free shipping sale. Always good to have the free shipping aspect, especially there's various sizes of these products that you see at mypillow.com. So getting that extra savings there. And also when you use that RSBN promo code, I'm sure you're going to see percentages off throughout that website. It's a great site to go to, a lot of great products and a great person, Mike Lindell. mypillow.com/RSBN. And if you'd like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, of course, you can do so by going to rsbnetwork.com/donate or text RSBN to 801-801. Also, you can mail us cash or a check to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for supporting Right Side Broadcasting Network and conservative media. Those dollars going toward all of that right here in Alabama. And obviously we have our cameras pretty much everywhere, it seems like, when it comes to our pool feeds that we get. That's a live picture there in Washington, D.C. All right, it is 12:06, Friday, July 25th. That wraps up our morning coverage today. Thanks so much for streaming in on this live stream broadcast. For all of us at Right Side, I'm Matthew Alvarez. If there's any breaking news, you know where to find us. We'll see you in a bit.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed, so join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.